Chapter 23:16. If he needed pure soul energy, he would have to send it to the main system for purification. Ning Shu was reluctant to do that. The silver-haired man asked, "What do you think?" "I think it's normal," Ning Shu said. The silver-haired man said, "As long as you're happy." Alright, he really needed pure soul energy. From a personal point of view, Ning Shu still didn't want his world to be polluted. The main thing was that it was too painful to send the soul energy to the main system for purification. Then he would use the golden soul stone to purify it. There was a lot of soul energy in the golden soul stone. He would have to take out the precious golden soul stone to purify it. Since he was already here, Ning Shu planned to ask a few more questions. "Then do you know of any way to purify soul energy?" "No," the silver-haired man said directly. "Is there really no way? Is there any technique or item that can purify it?" If there was no way, how could the main system purify it? There is a way, but it's in the hands of the main system. Also, the mission enforcers don't have the right to know about it. If anyone knows, the mission enforcers will kill people to collect souls and purify them. The silver-haired man said. Ning Shu was speechless. He was speechless. It seemed that the silver-haired man didn't say everything. The concerns that the silver-haired man said were not non-existent. If he wanted to kill people to absorb souls, the price would be very high. Ning Shu sighed and took a deep breath of the agarwood. Although he was a little disappointed, it was within his expectations. However, getting a way to repair the world was the biggest gain. Damn, all of them ate high-end food. He didn't know how much soul energy it would take to repair the world. With such a high price, if Ning Shu didn't have 9 Palace Mountain, he would have no choice but to give up this world. How much? Ning Shu took out his identity card and asked. 200,000 merit points. The silver-haired man said. Ning Shu silently swiped the card. He was too lazy to bargain. Who asked her to walk into this consultation room? He took a deep breath of the agarwood before walking out of the consultation room. After getting the solution, Ning Shu quickly returned to the system space and took out a lot of golden soul stones. He asked 2333 to send them to the main system to purify so that the world could be repaired. 2333. Ning Shu looked at the soul stone in the system space. Didn't he send a soul stone away? Why was it still here? What's up? Are you going to do a quest? A system quest? 2333 asked. Ning Shu said, "No, I want you to send these soul stones to the main system for purification. Also, I agreed to use 20% of my soul force, not 20% of my soul origin." Ning Shu said. All of her soul origin was going to be used to repair the world. "Oh, that's not right. Isn't it 20%? 2333 snapped back to reality. "Back then, I promised you 20% of my soul power, not 20% of my soul essence," Ning Shu said. "I'm too lazy to argue with you. Let's leave it at that." 2333 went silent after that. Ning Shu was a little surprised. Why was 2333 so dispirited? Ning Shu was really confused. He thought about it and asked 2333, "Do you know Jingqing?" "Jingqing? I don't know him," 2333 said. Ning Shu wanted to scratch his head. He thought this guy was really crazy. He didn't know what these people were talking about. Ning Shu was too lazy to care. The truth would come out one day. As for who Jingqing was, it had nothing to do with her. Ning Shu was going to learn the law of space. After that, he would go mining. There were a few soul stone mines like this that couldn't be mined. He didn't know what other surprises there were in the other danger zones. Even if there weren't any surprises, the quality of the soul stones in these danger zones must be very good. When he arrived at the space city, Ning Shu felt like he had walked into a kaleidoscope. He was dazzled and didn't know where to go. Ning Shu tried to use her hand to split space, but the result was that her hand was split open and she ended up in another unknown space. Every time he entered the space city, Ning Shu felt like he was a headless fly. Ning Shu felt that the taxes in the space city must be very little. People like him couldn't even touch the door of a shop. What could he buy if he couldn't even go in? It was quite embarrassing. Ning Shu wondered if it was because his sense of direction was a little bad that it took him so much effort to learn the law of space. However, if he didn't learn the law of space when he entered the second floor, he would be crushed by the space blades, space collapses, space storms, and all kinds of other attacks. Ning Shu sat down and raised his chin to look at the space city. After looking at it for a long time, his eyes became blurry. He was clearly going to a shop, but he couldn't walk over. Even if he walked over, he ended up in another shop. Well, the business in the space city definitely wasn't that good. With such a strict entrance test, Ning Shu didn't know if he could pass it. Ning Shu took out the notebook he bought at the auction house. He flipped it over and over, but he couldn't see anything. He looked up, down, left, and right. He was completely at a loss. It couldn't be a scam, right? Sure enough, he still couldn't understand the realm of art. It was as if time and space didn't exist at all. It was an ideology formed when people understood or recognized things. No one could touch time. Ning Shu touched the space city's wall. As he walked, he thought about how to shop on the streets of the space city. From the big universe to the small particles, there was a world in a flower and a world in a grain of sand. The size of the outside didn't affect the size of the space inside. For example, his peerless martial art was only the size of a book, but the space inside was very large. So, how should he comprehend it? Ning Shu fanned himself with the notebook and leaned against the wall. It was so damn tiring. Every time he comprehended the law of space, Ning Shu felt like a fool. He didn't know how the Cheongsam man comprehended the law of time. However, he still had to continue comprehending. Ning Shu always felt that what he had in his hands was probably a strategy for clearing a high-level dungeon. What he needed now was a strategy for the novice village. It was too high-level and he couldn't understand it at all. The resources of the Nine Palace Mountain supported Ning Shu's comprehension, but he didn't gain anything. There was also no sudden inspiration. It was really frustrating. Perhaps he would comprehend it if he had a flash of inspiration. Ning Shu walked and walked from one space to another. He went back and forth and then he got lost. He didn't know how many empty spaces there were in this city. It was so tiring that he cried. He even bragged that he would bring the golden earthworm to the second floor. In the end, he failed to comprehend the law of space. It was really depressing. If he continued walking, Ning Shu felt that he would get lost in space. The lack of progress made him very irritated. He couldn't find the trick and could only do useless work. It was a very bad feeling. Chapter 23:17. Ning Shu shuttled back and forth between countless spaces. She was very annoyed. In the end, she released her vines and pierced through the space, creating a hole in it. This space was too fragile. Ning Shu crawled out of the hole and found a huge foot that looked like a person stepping on her head. She quickly shrank her head and retreated back into the space. After a while, Ning Shu stuck her head out and found that she was in a huge world. The people here were very, very big. One foot could crush her to death. She was as small as a grain of sand. Everything around her was huge. Ning Shu was confused. How did she become so small? Ning Shu crawled out of the space. Her body became bigger and bigger. She was the same size as the people around her. The huge things around her gradually became smaller. The mission enforcers who came and went saw Ning Shu suddenly appear. They didn't look surprised at all. It was very normal. Although she had violently opened the space, Ning Shu was glad that she didn't need to travel through the endless space one after another. It was simply too tiring. Although it was his first time in the space city, he felt very familiar. The layout of all the cities was the same. Except for the different laws, everything else was the same. A design map designed so many cities. Finally, he was out. Ning Shu felt that he should celebrate. He quickly went to the restaurant and ordered a table of desserts. It was sweet in his mouth. Only then did he feel that he was really out of the space. After eating desserts, he decided to test if he would have to go through so many spaces like kaleidoscopes the next time he entered the city. Ning Shu returned to the system space and asked 2333 to send him to the space city. However, 2333 was a little out of it. Basically, when Ning Shu said something, 2333 had to repeat it twice before it would react. It was like a toad, jumping only when poked. Haha, is this a young man in love? Back in the space city, Ning Shu appeared in one space after another. If he wasn't careful, he would get lost in the space. Ning Shu was speechless. The space city was definitely the best place to play. Ning Shu directly broke the space from the top and drilled out of the hole. This time, he drilled out from a different place. Could it be that every time he wanted to enter the space city, he had to first break the space before he could enter? And the positions are different? Ning Shu experimented over and over again, testing every time he entered a law city. After going back and forth like that, 2333 was about to explode. It's been dozens of times. Did you learn anything? I didn't realize anything, Ning Shu said directly. Instead, I became even more confused. 2333 didn't say anything. The room fell into a strange silence and awkwardness. Ning Shu asked, 2333, why do I feel like you're not yourself lately? Tell me what's bothering you. Please don't disturb me. That's the biggest help you can give me. Thank you. Ning Shu was speechless. It was weird. Ning Shu experimented over and over again countless times. In the end, Ning Shu actually figured out where he would go if he opened a hole in the space. For example, if Ning Shu wanted to go to the auction house, he would open a hole in a specific place and crawl out to the auction house. As for the relationship between them, Ning Shu didn't quite understand. Perhaps these two space nodes were on the same line. Although the harvest wasn't very big, at least he could buy things when he entered the space city in the future. He wouldn't have to wander around the kaleidoscope-like space and not be able to find his way. After so many experiments, Ning Shu was mentally exhausted. After returning to the system space to rest for a while, he fished out 5 black irregular law sea stones from the fish pond. As a reward for the intermediate trial, Ning Shu wiped off the wet water on the stones. Then, he took the Peerless Martial Arts book and merged the 5 stones into the Peerless Martial Arts book. Ning Shu looked at the Peerless Martial Arts book over and over again. He felt that the 5 law sea stones were like a drop of water falling into the sea. There wasn't a single drop of water splashing. It was useless. Maybe it was useful, but the surface was densely packed with cracks. Even if 1 or 2 were missing, it wouldn't be obvious. When the main system sent the Soul Origin back, he would use the Soul Origin to repair it. Ning Shu opened the black hole and walked into the world of Samsara. He entered the 9 Palace Mountain to mine. Treasure hunting was the happiest thing. How is it? Ning Shu asked the golden earthworm lying next to the plant. Why you back? The golden earthworm didn't want to see Ning Shu. Actually, I've been gone for a long time. She had done a lot of things, but the flow of time here was different. Ning Shu looked at the pocket-sized baby in the bud. It was still sleeping. Its eyes were tightly closed, and its eyelashes covered its eyelids. After I left, it has been sleeping. It hasn't woken up? Ning Shu asked. Has it woken up? The earthworm arched its body like a caterpillar, full of aggression. Ning Shu, what cat disease? It hasn't woken up. I'm just asking. Why are you so agitated? The earthworm heaved a sigh of relief. I'm just afraid that it will see your appearance and imitate your appearance. How pitiful would that be? Ning Shu, if it imitates your appearance, its life will be even more pitiful. Ning Shu looked at it with disdain. Then he said, what do you mean by imitating human appearance? The golden earthworm looked at the baby in the bud with lingering eyes and said, I remember the old patriarch said that there is a kind of golden thread grass that grows in the soul stone mine. After absorbing the essence of the soul stone mine, it can give birth to a different kind of life. But this is just a legend. It was all bullshit. Ning Shu said, let's go find other mines together. I'm not going. I want to guard the golden thread grass. The golden earthworm said, I hope that when it opens its eyes, it will see me and remember my appearance. It has already grown 4 limbs and looks like a human. If it wants to grow like you, it will have to be reborn. Ning Shu didn't feel much about this baby. He was thinking about how much soul origin it would absorb to give birth to such a life. The world's heavenly Tao allowed such a life to be born? Then I'll become a 2-legged monster, the golden earthworm said. Ning Shu, Finding the soul stone mine is the right thing to do. Maybe the soul stone mine we find will have this kind of golden thread grass? Ning Shu said. Impossible. If one is born, there won't be a second one. Otherwise, both of them won't be able to live, the golden earthworm said. Ning Shu, why is this monster so hard to fool? Then you're not going to the second level? Ning Shu asked. No, I don't want to go for the time being, the golden earthworm said without thinking. Ning Shu wiped his face. Without the golden earthworm, she would have to spend a lot of time mining. However, this girl looked at the golden thread grass like a fool and couldn't be dragged away. Ning Shu also squatted down and looked at the baby in the bud. Caught off guard, the baby opened its unfocused golden eyes. It seemed to be looking at Ning Shu, but it also seemed like it wasn't. Its eyes were unfocused. Chapter 23:18. Ning Shu glanced at the golden earthworm on the other side. Didn't he tell the earthworm that the pocket-sized baby had woken up again? Otherwise, it would go crazy. Let the baby grow into an earthworm, he said. In just a second or two, the baby closed its eyes again, clenched its fist, sucked on its thumb, and turned over. The golden earthworm stood up and looked kindly at the pocket-sized baby. Ning Shu didn't say that the baby had woken up twice. Otherwise, it would go crazy and throw its venom everywhere. When will it grow up? Ning Shu asked. She didn't have much time to stay here. The flow of time in the Nine Palace Mountain was much slower than in the system space to begin with. If he were to stay here and guard the child, who knew when the time would come, it would be too late for him to leave. She should be able to grow up soon. I don't know. Didn't you say that your race is very familiar with the golden thread grass? I already said that it's a legend. I've never seen it before. The golden earthworm was really arrogant. Ning Shu thought about it and decided that the baby still needed a long time to grow up. Thinking about the mummy in the secret chamber, it seemed that it had been guarding for at least 100 years. Ning Shu quickly shook his head. Guarding a baby for a few hundred years? Ning Shu said to the golden earthworm, You really don't want to go? Nothing can tempt me now. The earthworm stared at the baby in the flower bud, thinking about how to turn into a two-legged monster and make the baby stare at it every day. Then, it would imitate its appearance and grow up. Ning Shu didn't want to waste any more time. After thinking about it, he dripped a few more drops of the emerald green liquid, treating it as watering. Then, he rushed to the next danger zone to look for a soul stone mine. With the earthworm guarding there and the dense wind blades outside the mine, it should be safer. Ning Shu came to a danger zone alone. Moreover, Ning Shu didn't dare to approach it at all because it was a minefield. The sky was crackling with thunder, and it was very scary. The lightning was very thick. Ning Shu had to think about whether he would be electrocuted while digging with a shovel in such an environment. Furthermore, lightning was of the extreme yang attribute, while the soul would more or less carry the yin attribute. If struck by lightning, one's soul would definitely be damaged. It was no wonder that no one wanted to excavate the spirit stone mines in these dangerous places. Each one was more dangerous than the last, with thunder striking day and night. Ning Shu couldn't possibly remove the dark clouds in the sky, could he? Did he want her to mine with a lightning rod? It was very dangerous. This was not an ordinary thunder. It was even mixed with the tribulation clouds of self-cultivators. The tribulation clouds were divided into different levels. What kind of heaven-defying thing was inside for these tribulation clouds to gather together, as if they were determined to strike him to death? Ning Shu carefully moved over and stepped on the bones. There were many bones along the way. There must have been people who came here to search for treasures, but they all died. The closer they got to the mountain range, the more oppressive it felt. There was a dense heavenly might hanging over their heads, making it difficult to breathe. Ning Shu stopped in her tracks and looked at the rolling dark clouds. The entire mountain range was shrouded in lightning. Lightning struck the mountain range again and again. Anyway, the whole mountain range was pitch black. There were no trees or bushes. The ground had probably been struck for a long time, and it had actually become very tough. Under the wanton sweep of the lightning, the whole mountain range showed a dark luster like black iron. Ning Shu didn't want this mine anymore. The first two mines were lucky, but this was a real confrontation with the heavenly might. Thinking that there was a shattered world waiting to be repaired, Ning Shu could only brace himself and move forward. Pa! A bolt of lightning draped over Ning Shu's body. His soul was about to be torn apart, and there was an incomparably scorching temperature that wanted to burn Ning Shu into ashes. Ning Shu's hair stood on end, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of smoke. This was only the edge. If he wanted to enter the center, he would be chased by lightning. To a certain extent, he was now a ghost, and ghosts were most afraid of things like lightning. Ning Shu was speechless. A few of them were difficult. He wanted to ask why there was something here, and why the lightning was targeting this place. There was probably some treasure, which was why there were so many bones here. They were all here to search for treasure, but they didn't see any treasure, and now there was a pile of bones. The weaker souls were directly scattered by the lightning. Ning Shu stretched out some vines to the center of the mountain range where the lightning was concentrated. The lightning struck the vines and directly turned them into ashes. The power of the lightning also passed along the vines to Ning Shu's body. It made her soul dim a lot. Ning Shu sighed and spat out smoke. Ning Shu touched his chin. He didn't want to go near the minefield. He started to dig a tunnel from afar into the mountain range. It was very time-consuming, and there was no one around. Ning Shu spat a mouthful of saliva on his palm, picked up the shovel and began to dig the tunnel. This was the stupidest way, and he had to dig deeper. If he dug shallowly, the power of the lightning on the surface would still be transmitted to her body. Ning Shu dug. Damn, this soil was really hard. Sparks flew from the shovel. Ning Shu threw the shovel away, took out the ring, and shot a ray of light at it. Then he took the shovel and dug again. The result was that the soil was harder, and the shovel was bent. What the hell, with the passage of time, the soil has become harder. It was said that the sea changed into mulberry fields, but this thing was getting harder and harder. Ning Shu came out of the hole and looked at the mountain range shrouded in dark clouds from afar. Ning Shu released his mental strength and used it to scan the entire mountain range. But the soil was too hard, and it was a little difficult to squeeze his mental strength deeper. With this kind of hard soil, even earthworms might not be able to drill in. Could it be that he had to give up just like that? Ning Shu floated up and looked at the mountain range below from a high altitude. The entire mountain range appeared in front of Ning Shu. The entire mountain range looked like an oval egg, but the egg was completely black. Ning Shu expressed his doubts. If it was an ordinary earthworm, it definitely wouldn't be able to drill in. How could it see that there was a soul stone mine here? As for the golden earthworm, it drank the soul origin liquid like sweet water, and its body had mutated. Ning Shu convinced himself that there were no soul stones here, and it was too dangerous. It was better to retreat. But his heart was similar to the other cultivators. He felt that there should be some treasure here, and he was reluctant to give it up. It was too damn dangerous. The choice between treasure and life. Ning Shu tried to use other methods to enter the mountain range. Why was the lightning tirelessly striking this place? The existence of the lightning tribulation was to eliminate heaven-defying existences. If it was eliminated, it would naturally disappear. If it passed, it would become stronger. Ning Shu and those cultivators who died here and turned into bones had similar thoughts. There must be treasures here. Chapter 23:19. Ning Shu was a little reluctant to give up. However, if this continued, she felt that she might not be able to withstand the heavenly might. Even if her soul power was strong, she couldn't withstand the continuous lightning strikes. Moreover, each lightning tribulation was more ferocious than the previous one. Ning Shu thought of a way to lead the lightning to a place so that she would have time to investigate the situation below. She would know if there were any treasures after investigating. However, how was she going to lead this large cloud away? Ning Shu flipped her finger and countless water fell from the sky. It was about to drown the entire mountain range. In order to prevent the flood from running everywhere, Ning Shu set up a barrier. This barrier surrounded the entire mountain range and formed an iron bucket. Slowly, the water drowned the entire mountain range. The mountain peak couldn't be seen. At a glance, it was a vast ocean. The lightning fell into the water and sizzled. It didn't look so scary. However, water was also conductive. However, Ning Shu felt that it was better to be in the water than to face the lightning alone. Ning Shu set up a barrier on her body and jumped into the water. She immediately felt that her soul was about to explode. Oh my God, the power of the lightning is too damn strong. Ning Shu quickly jumped out of the water. She thought that the water would make her situation better. However, she didn't expect that the dark clouds in the sky wouldn't disperse at all. They were still relentlessly striking this place. Ning Shu was speechless. What was inside for the tribulation clouds to persist like this? She thought that the tribulation clouds would disperse when there was no target. However, it didn't. Ning Shu set up an enchantment on top of the barrel and added a cover on top of it. The lightning would strike on the cover and everything would be fine. Pa! The enchantment that Ning Shu had just set up was broken by a loud thunderbolt. Mixed with anger, the thunderbolt fell on the water surface, and the entire surface of the water rippled with thunder and lightning. There were even tribulation clouds that spread out and covered Ning Shu's head. Crackling sounds could be heard as the tribulation clouds crazily struck Ning Shu. Ning Shu spat out smoke and ran away. He opened a black hole and quickly left the Nine-Palace Mountain. Oh my God, I almost transcended the tribulation. Transcending the tribulation as a soul was no different from courting death. Ning Shu sat on the black sand and grabbed a handful of it. Finally, she lay down. The sand felt cool and soft. Ning Shu yawned and fell into a deep sleep. He didn't know how long he slept. In any case, when Ning Shu woke up, he felt refreshed. Seeing the abyssal prefect standing not far away, he quickly stood up and walked over. When did you come? It's been a while. The abyssal prefect turned around with a black flower in his hand. Why didn't you call me? Ning Shu's fine. It doesn't matter. I don't have many things, but I do have a lot of time. The abyssal prefect sized up Ning Shu. Every time I see you, you're always in a sorry state. I went to dig a hole. It's inevitable that I'll be a bit embarrassed, Ning Shu said carelessly. What are you here for this time? Take away the soul pearl and send these souls to reincarnation. The abyssal prefect said calmly as he sniffed the black flower. So many planes have been destroyed. How many planes can reincarnate these souls? After the planes were destroyed, these souls had to enter the planes, which made the planes even more crowded. Then reincarnate these souls in the 9 worlds? The abyssal prefect asked. Ning Shu was expressionless. I can't guarantee that nothing will happen. Besides, there are billions of planes. 1 or 2 living beings can be stuffed into each plane. So, the worry you're showing is especially laughable. You say some righteous and compassionate words, but when it comes to your own interests, you change your words. It's annoying. The abyssal prefect said calmly. The abyssal prefect should be a sharp-tongued gentleman. Yes, it's easy for me to say that. Hurry up and take those souls away. The Nine-Palace Mountain is too small to accommodate these souls. Ning Shu said directly. The abyssal prefect put the black flower on Ning Shu's ear. Ning Shu touched the flower on his ear and took it off. Actually, I've always wanted to tell you that this is mourning. Oh. The abyssal prefect said, I only have black flowers. Didn't you humans say that you want to be mourning? Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu felt that the abyssal prefect was like a foreigner who insisted on learning the Chinese language. Was he enjoying pretending to be a human? Ning Shu was silent. The abyssal prefect entered the Nine-Palace Mountain and took out more than 20 pearls. Ning Shu asked curiously, Are your rations souls? Yes, sometimes I want to know how food feels. The abyssal prefect said. Ning Shu was speechless. Look at how scared you are. Only when there are too many souls in the world of reincarnation and we can't squeeze in anymore will we eat these souls. Digesting these souls is not comfortable, so I don't like to eat them, the abyssal prefect said gently. The abyssal prefect said gently. He was wearing the skin of a gentleman and elegantly said things that could devour souls. Ning Shu didn't think it was cute at all. Then what about these souls? Ning Shu asked. Each pearl was the soul of an entire realm. If he ate them, he would die from overeating. I don't like the 7 emotions and 6 desires that are mixed in the souls of humans. The Abyssal Prefect said, the 7 emotions and 6 desires that are removed from the souls in the pool of reincarnation are poisonous. Ning Shu thought, so the Abyssal Prefect is complaining? Ning Shu didn't say anything. It seemed that the Abyssal Prefect was complaining about humans, and she was a human too. Ning Shu changed the topic. The war is over now, right? It's over. The Abyssal Prefect said a few words and left. Ning Shu pulled his afro hair and continued mining. However, he still went back to the system space to see if the soul source had been purified and sent back. Back in the system space, Ning Shu saw a bottle on the coffee table. The bottle was filled with a golden liquid. Could this be the soul source that the main system had purified? This bottle wasn't big. It was only the size of a fist. The mountain of golden soul stones that had been purified only produced this little bit. However, it was very viscous. Ning Shu felt it. It was pure soul source. He took out the peerless martial art and poured the soul source on the peerless martial art. When the soul source was poured on it, it was immediately absorbed by the world. It was like dry land absorbing water. Ning Shu poured the entire bottle of soul source on the peerless martial art. The world absorbed it all. Ning Shu touched the peerless martial art that was full of scars. He had absorbed so much, but he didn't feel anything. If such a bottle of pure soul source were to be auctioned, how much would it sell for? Ning Shu didn't know how much soul source he had poured into it. Fortunately, there were many golden soul stones. He also had a collection of relatively pure soul source liquid. Ning Shu sighed. He didn't ask whether it was worth it or not. After so many twists and turns, it still returned to him. This kind of fate couldn't be abandoned. So, he still had to go mining. However, these dangerous places were really hard to find. Ning Shu took some spirit liquid from the spirit pool. This spirit liquid might be useful for the golden thread grass. Chapter 23:20. Ning Shu walked into the cave and glanced at the flower bud. The baby was sleeping with its eyes closed. The golden earthworm next to it was snoring loudly. Ning Shu took out the spiritual liquid and dripped a drop of water on the golden silk grass at a distance. Spiritual qi was not beneficial to all plants. For some plants, spiritual qi could be considered as poison. Seeing that the golden thread grass was not harmful, he dripped some water around it. The pocket-sized baby in the flower bud opened its eyes. Its golden eyes stared at Ning Shu. Its eyes were pure, and there was nothing in them. Ning Shu reached out and touched the pocket-sized baby. The baby grabbed Ning Shu's finger with its tiny hand. Ning Shu smiled. Although he did not know what species it was, since it was alive, he could only let it grow. After a while, the baby closed its eyes again and curled up into a ball to sleep. Ning Shu dripped a few drops of emerald green liquid around the golden thread grass. The golden earthworm was still sleeping soundly. Ning Shu could not help but want to roll his eyes. After looking at the golden thread grass, Ning Shu went to look for veins. She didn't go to the previous vein, but changed to another one. This was a place covered in snow, but there were people coming and going in this mine. The mine had already been excavated, and baskets of spirit stones were transported out. Ning Shu was speechless. He was one step too late. It seemed that this was not an absolutely dangerous place. The ore veins would be mined. Ning Shu touched his arm. This place was too cold. It was bone-chilling. These miners were so cold that their bodies were shivering, and their faces were purple. Since someone had opened the mine, Ning Shu could only change places and look for other ore veins. In order to find soul stones, Ning Shu ran until his legs were thin. Ning Shu did not care much about ordinary soul stones. What was important was the high-purity spirit liquid and the golden soul stone. Only these two things could help repair the world. It's time to come back and do the mission. All the mission takers have been summoned. 2333's voice sounded in his mind. Ning Shu, what do you mean? We just went to war and now you want to do missions? Ning Shu still wanted to wander around for a while. Rather than completing quests, he might as well search for ores. He might as well use the soul power he obtained from completing quests to comprehend the law of space and enter 9 Palace Mountain's 2nd floor. It's not just you. Even the quest givers who rarely do quests have been called back. There aren't many of them. 2333 said, take this opportunity to meet a lot of powerful quest givers. Ning Shu sighed. Just by thinking about the corpses floating on the sea of laws, he knew that more and more planes were collapsing. Ning Shu returned to the system space and said to 2333, I'm still immersed in the battle. I'm barely able to complete the quest. You've been wandering around for quite some time, 2333 said. Are you doing system quests? Ning Shu was speechless. It feels like I haven't warmed up in a long time. Let's do a simple quest to warm up, Ning Shu said. Oh, okay. Ning Shu had purchased some fasting pills from the merchant shop. Although she might not be able to use them, just in case, she knew how to refine pills. When she was free, she would also get a furnace to refine pills to cultivate her mind. However, she was too busy right now and didn't have the time to do so. Then let's do the quest, Ning Shu said. 2333. Ning Shu shouted again. 2333 was often in a daze. Ning Shu felt her soul become weightless, but she quickly fused into a body. The biggest advantage of soul water was that it could quickly fuse into the body of the user. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. There was a thin and sharp voice in her ear. Although the voice was very soft, it was still very unpleasant to hear. Ning Shu opened her eyes and saw a eunuch wearing a hat. She quickly reached out to help him. Your Majesty, it's time to go to court. The eunuch waved her hand, and a group of palace maids filed in, holding basins and spittoons in their hands. Ning Shu touched his Adam's apple. Well, it's not bad to become the most powerful man in the world. As for dressing like a man, I just need to get used to it. Under the arrangement of the palace maids, a majestic emperor was born. He wore a crown with 12 beads on his head, and a black dragon robe with a majestic golden dragon embroidered on it with golden thread. The person who commissioned him looked very good. He arrived at the court with an empty stomach. The eunuch said that there was something to report, and if there was nothing, the court was dismissed. In the end, these court officials reported many things, but they quarreled in the court. The factions in the court were so complicated. Ning Shu supported her forehead with her hand. The crown on her head was really heavy. Ning Shu ignored the quarreling in the court and began to accept the plot. The person who commissioned him inherited the throne at the age of 16. The young emperor had no power, no soldiers, and no confidence. All the power was in the hands of the Empress Dowager. So when he woke up in the cold to go to court, he was just a puppet. Whose youth was not Shinibu? Which emperor did not want to be a wise emperor and leave his name in history? The person who commissioned him wanted to take power and military power from the Empress Dowager every day. In particular, the person who commissioned him hated the most. His uncle held half of the country's military power. The Empress Dowager and the Empress Dowager were his aunt and niece. Every time he tried to take power from the Empress Dowager would always say that the person who commissioned him was too young. Moreover, with the officials and the Empress Dowager watching from the side, he would not make a mistake. Managing a country was not a pile of sand. If he made a mistake, he would have to start over again. In the previous dynasty, the emperor did not have much say. He had to ask the Empress Dowager for any decision, and the Empress Dowager had to intervene. In the harem, it was even more complicated. There was the empress who was reborn for revenge, there was the empress who wanted to steal the emperor's heart, there were transmigrators who wanted to talk about love, and there were concubines who wanted to steal the emperor's favor. It could be said that demons were dancing wildly. Ning Shu, this emperor, wish to take power. Ning Shu yawned and rubbed his hands. It was a bit cold. He said to the officials who were quarreling with each other, "Are you done quarreling? If you're done, Zhen wants to go back and sleep." Your Majesty. Immediately, many of the courtiers looked at Ning Shu with resentment. Ning Shu, since you want to quarrel, then continue. Ning Shu left in a huff. When he returned to his sleeping quarters, under the conflicted gaze of his personal eunuch, he really did lie down and sleep. Emperor, Later on, the Empress Dowager. The eunuch did not dare to continue. Ning Shu turned his back to the eunuch and began to practice the peerless martial arts. Although the world of peerless martial arts was about to collapse, the peerless martial arts could still be practiced. Thinking about it, it was quite bitter. In such a big palace, the person who commissioned him did not have anyone he trusted, nor did he have anyone he could use. He did not even dare to use his personal eunuch. After all, the Empress Dowager was very powerful now. Everyone in the imperial harem had to listen to her. In fact, being the Empress Dowager was much more comfortable than being the emperor. When the personal eunuch saw that Ning Shu had really fallen asleep, he was very anxious. If the emperor was like this, the matters in the imperial court would spread to the Empress Dowager's ears. When the Empress Dowager came and saw that the emperor was so lazy, the unlucky ones were the servants they served this time. However, they did not dare to wake the emperor up. They tiptoed around and did not dare to make a sound. Chapter 23-21. The Empress Dowager has arrived. The Empress Dowager has arrived. The eunuch's sharp voice sounded outside the bedroom. Then the Empress Dowager and the Empress Dowager walked in, surrounded by a group of eunuchs and palace maids. Ning Shu lay on the bed without moving. The Empress Dowager was a graceful and noble woman with a strong aura. She glanced at Ning Shu on the bed and said to Ning Shu's personal eunuch, "Xiao Liuzi, why haven't you woken up the emperor?" "Xiao Liuzi, did they really have to wake him up?" "His mother." Xiao Liuzi had no choice but to go to the bedside and gently call Ning Shu. "Emperor, the Empress Dowager has arrived." Ning Shu made a sound of acknowledgement. He opened his eyes and stretched. He looked at the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager maintained herself well. She still had her charm. There were no wrinkles on her face. Her hair was thick and there were no white hairs. However, time would leave its mark on the body. No matter how well she maintained herself, no one would treat her as a little girl. Beside the Empress Dowager was a woman wearing a light red palace dress. She was very beautiful and somewhat similar to the Empress Dowager. At this moment, she looked at Ning Shu with a complicated gaze that was mixed with hatred. "Muhu, you're here." Ning Shu lifted the quilt and sat on the bed. When the Empress Dowager saw Ning Shu like this, she instantly became angry. "Emperor, look at yourself now." Ning Shu propped one foot up on the bed. "Muhu, what do you want this son to do?" "Be a good emperor. Now, you don't look at memorials, don't care about state affairs, and sleep so lazily. Which emperor is like you?" The Empress Dowager said. The jade beads on her head made a sound. It could be seen how agitated the Empress Dowager was. "Aren't the memorials all looked at by those old things? They've already discussed and decided. Things that can't be decided are naturally decided by Muhu. What does it have to do with Zhen? Zhen is just sleeping. Could it be that an emperor can't even sleep?" "Ning Shu's can you not be so unreasonable" expression made the veins on the Empress Dowager's forehead pop. "You'll be laughed at by all the subjects of the world if this gets out," the Empress Dowager said harshly. She was a little distressed. "Imperial Mother, you're thinking too much. We're just taking a nap. We want to be diligent and love the people, but we don't have the authority. Even if we want to find something to do, we can't do it. We want to go out in plain clothes." Ning Shu sighed, looking bored to death. "You, my son." The Empress Dowager didn't know what to say. "I want you to learn how to be a diligent and loving emperor. Learn how to be a good emperor." Ning Shu stood up. "Imperial Mother, please hand over the military authority to your son. Now is not the time to hand it over to you." The Empress Dowager didn't expect Ning Shu to say it so directly. She just said, "We'll talk about this later. You're the emperor. You shouldn't be so lazy. Before you learn how to be a good emperor, I won't give you the power." Ning Shu just smiled slightly and asked, "Then what makes a good emperor? What makes a good emperor?" The Empress Dowager said, "Understand the affairs of the court, know how to keep the officials in check, and know how to use people." These things were a bit difficult for Ning Shu because the person who commissioned him had ascended the throne for almost 2 years. In these 2 years, he had been a puppet emperor. Now that the court was controlled by the Empress Dowager, there was no one in the court. No matter what he announced, no one would raise their arms to support him. He was alone, a commander without an army. The Empress Dowager gave Ningxu a few words and then left with the Empress. The Empress paused and walked in front of Ningxu. She bowed and said, "Emperor, Imperial Mother hopes that you can become a wise emperor. She wants to train the Emperor's temperament. That's why she is like this." Even though the Empress was submissive, Ningxu could clearly feel the hatred and disgust coming from her. The Empress' hands and her sleeves clenched into fists. Her nails dug into her palms and brought pain. Ningxu waved his hand and asked the Empress to leave. The Empress bowed and turned to leave. When she saw the Emperor, she couldn't control her emotions. She loved the Emperor so much in her previous life, but in the end she was coldly banished to the harem by him. The entire Qing family was exiled, the Empress Dowager was imprisoned, and her son, who was supposed to inherit the throne, was taught to be submissive. The Qing family, which was once prominent, declined just like that. Fortunately, God gave her another chance. She returned to the time when the tyrant was not in power yet. She could do it again. The Qing family couldn't be ruined by the tyrant. Her son would be well protected. They were a young couple. Before the tyrant ascended the throne, she was his wife, but he didn't care about the relationship between husband and wife. Ningxu was speechless. To be honest, Ningxu didn't understand one thing. I love you so much, but you don't love me. This is a big crime. It's your fault. I love you so much, but you don't love me. Is there any justice in this? You won't have a good death. The Empress left the bedroom and caught up with the Empress Dowager. She bowed and said to the Empress Dowager, "Mother, don't ruin the relationship between you and the Emperor because of a small matter. The world will belong to the Emperor sooner or later. You don't understand. Now that the Qing family is prominent and has handed over the power, will the Emperor let the Qing family go?" The Empress Dowager also had a headache. It was a hot potato. The Empress curled her lips, but the Emperor will be more and more dissatisfied. Let's talk about this later. The Empress hoped that the tyrant would quarrel with the Empress Dowager so that the Empress Dowager wouldn't let him take over the throne. Since her rebirth, she only wanted revenge. How stupid was she to help persuade the Empress Dowager to give up the power? She tried her best to be a good wife and gave all her love to him. But how did he repay her? He exiled the Qing family and banished her to the cold palace. The palace maid helped Ningxu put on his clothes. Ningxu asked Xiao Liuzi to bring over the memorials. The memorials she was looking at now were selected and handed over. They were all inexplicable things. It was hard to pretend to be diligent and love the people. "Emperor, Lu Jiaoyi is outside the hall," Xiao Liuzi said. Ningxu made a sound of acknowledgement. Lu Jiaoyi? Transmigrator? The Empress Dowager's harem, there was a strategy system, a transmigrator, and a reborn person. It was said that the imperial palace was dark. Once you entered the palace, it was as deep as the sea. But all kinds of monsters gathered here. Ningxu put down the cinnabar pen, flicked his sleeve and said, "Let her in." Lu Jiaoyi came in with a food box. When she saw Ningxu, her eyes lit up. Lu Jiaoyi was a beauty. Although she was wearing a palace dress, there was always a sense of freedom on her body. Her soul was different. "Emperor, Chinchia made some pastries for you. Have a taste." Lu Jiaoyi took out a beautiful plate from the food box. The pastries on the plate were very beautiful and looked very appetizing. Moreover, each pastry had a smiley face painted on it. Chapter 23-22. This kind of pastry was the fluffy little cake of the modern era. It looked cute and appetizing. "Thank you for your hard work," Ningxu casually said. The imperial palace was clearly a power struggle that killed people without spilling blood, but there were people in this kind of situation who wanted to have a pure love. Sometimes love was an all-purpose fig leaf. Ningxu tasted it and put it down. Lu Jiaoyi was a little puzzled and asked, "Emperor, is it not delicious?" "It's all right." "Is Emperor in a bad mood?" Lu Jiaoyi asked. "Chinchia believes that Emperor will wait until the clouds open and the moon sees the light. This is only a temporary predicament. I believe that Emperor will pass it." running to the ancient times to stew chicken soup for the soul, to be a confidant. How do you know that Zhen will succeed? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked. Because Qinxie believes that emperor is a wise ruler. Wasn't it written in the history books? Oh, what kind of wise ruler is Zhen? When emperor is on the throne, the country will be prosperous and the people will be at peace. The people will be glad to have a good emperor like you. Lu Jiaoyi secretly stuck out her tongue. People who could be called great emperors all left a thick and colorful stroke in history. The current emperor should be suppressed by the Empress Dowager. He didn't pay attention when he was studying and didn't know the details of seizing power. He only knew that he succeeded in seizing power in the end. Then he started the glorious life of a great emperor. Qinxie believes that emperor will become a wise ruler and become an existence revered by tens of thousands of people. Qinxie believes in emperor. Ning Shu couldn't help but laugh in his heart. She said it as if he became a wise ruler because of her. Why didn't he go and persuade those tyrannical and incapable rulers? That was called boundless merit. He was originally a person who left his name in history. You transmigrated and said it as if everything for the country and the people was done for you. Promise me that you will be a good emperor. Think too much. Ning Shu reached out and pushed the pastry on the table. Under Lu Jiaoyi's puzzled gaze, he pushed it to the ground. With a pa sound, the plate fell to the ground and broke into pieces. The pastry rolled on the ground. Emperor? Xiao Liuzi, who was guarding the door, suddenly pushed the door open and saw the pieces on the ground. Ning Shu said, Lu Jiaoyi lost her manners in front of Jiaoyi Palace and is grounded for 3 months. Lu Jiaoyi's expression was dull. When she heard Ning Shu's words, she subconsciously retorted, Didn't I drop this on the ground? Could it be that I dropped it on the ground? Ning Shu looked at Lu Jiaoyi. Lu Jiaoyi immediately came back to her senses. She knelt on the ground and said in an aggrieved tone, Emperor, you can't treat Qinxie like this. Lu Jiaoyi had a look of despair on her face, as if she had suffered a big blow. Seeing Ning Shu's cold face, Xiaolu hurriedly asked Lu Jiaoyi to leave and asked someone to clean up the garbage on the ground. Ning Shu looked at Lu Jiaoyi's sad back and felt that she was quite dramatic. She probably imagined that he was different in this harem. She had promised to be his confidant. Ning Shu felt that it was better to let her stay in his palace. Otherwise, she would have an expression of, I'm the one who knows you the best. She was different from other coquettish and cheap goods. Imperial concubines were absolutely weak in the harem, but it seemed that each of them felt that they were different. They were different coquettish and cheap goods. The only thing that comforted Ning Shu was that the food in the palace was very good. After grounding Lu Jiaoyi, the Empress came to ask what happened. Emperor, you want to be fair, blah blah blah, very virtuous. She often said that Imperial Mother said, you want to have more children. Imperial Mother, Imperial Mother. Ning Shu knew that the Empress was using the Empress Dowager to suppress him. He was now a hot-blooded man and was also the most powerful person in the world. If a person was suppressing him everywhere, the person who entrusted him would have already jumped. He didn't know what would happen after being instigated. Grounding the Empress of a country would definitely cause a big wave in the court. She was a woman of the Shen family. Old General Shen would definitely explode. There was also the Empress Dowager, who could tolerate her niece being grounded. The method to deal with an ordinary imperial concubine like Lu Jiaoyi couldn't be used on the Empress. This time, it was probably to deal with the heart-stealing system and seize power at the same time. The person who entrusted him was really isolated and helpless. It was said to be a simple task, but he didn't expect it to be such a task. Ning Shu silently listened to the Empress' words. She kept mentioning the Shen family, the Empress Dowager, deliberately provoking people. If you're done, then go out. Zhen wants to mark the memorials. How about, Empress, you're so capable, how about you help Zhen mark them? Ning Shu said. The Shen family had an Empress Dowager, an Empress, and old General Shen also had a lot of soldiers in his hands. It really made people afraid, especially the Empress Dowager who delayed handing over power. The court was isolated and helpless, and the harem was in a mess. When the Empress heard Ning Shu's words, her body trembled. Her heart was filled with pain and hatred. Scum. Qinxie doesn't know anything about the court. Emperor, you have to take care of your body. The Empress forced a smile. Ning Shu stared at the Empress' face. His eyes were a little sharp. The Empress was scared by Ning Shu's stare. Empress, what's wrong with you? You look a lot older. Don't work too hard. You look lifeless. Ning Shu said. A trace of panic flashed across the Empress' face. She found an excuse. I must not have slept well last night. Empress, you have to have a good rest. You look a lot older. The Empress touched her face and left. It wasn't that her face was old, but her heart was old. Every time she woke up, she felt that she was lying in the harem, surrounded by lunatics. Since her rebirth, the Empress thought about tearing down the cold palace every day. She found an excuse to teach the eunuchs and mamas in the cold palace of Yetting a lesson. In her previous life, she was demoted to the cold palace. These dogs bullied her and squeezed her. Every day, she thought and hoped that the Emperor would remember her. But in the end, she didn't wait until she died. After the Empress left, Ning Shu asked Xiao Liuzi to send some gifts to noble Lady Ping. Xiao Liuzi didn't understand what Ning Shu was thinking. Why did he want to reward noble Lady Ping, who was completely unrelated to him? He picked some jewelry and things like rouge, powder, and conch for Xiao Liuzi to send. Xiao Liuzi felt that noble Lady Ping might be favored, so he was very polite when he sent the gifts. Noble Lady Ping was also very puzzled. Not long ago, she was chosen to enter the palace. She had only served the Emperor once. Until now, she hadn't served the Emperor. Why did he suddenly send gifts? Moreover, the Emperor didn't have any love for her. Even his favorability was at 0. She had already slept with him, but he didn't have any favorable impression of her. Noble Lady Ping felt a bit regretful. If she had come earlier, serving the Emperor in bed would have been different. At least, she could have left a deep impression on the Emperor. Noble Lady Ping accepted the gifts and gave Xiao Liuzi some silver. She asked Xiao Liuzi to say a few good words in front of the Emperor. When Xiao Liuzi returned, he reported to Ning Shu that he had already given the gifts to noble Lady Ping. Then, noble Lady Ping said some words of concern for the Emperor. Ning Shu didn't say anything. But that night, he went to noble Lady Ping's place to meet the host who carried the system this time. After the morning assembly, Ning Shu looked through the list of officials in each department to understand the situation of each official in detail. In the harem, the transmigrated lady who was supposed to make chicken soup was grounded and couldn't come out to make chicken soup for the time being. Ning Shu only doted on noble Lady Ping. After chatting with noble Lady Ping for 2 nights, she promoted her. She was promoted from a 6th-rank noble lady to a 4th-rank noble lady. She should be called Ping Fangi now. Jumping 2 ranks caused an uproar in the harem. Many concubines ran to the Empress to complain, saying that this was not in accordance with the rules of the ancestors. The Empress was eager for the Emperor to mess around and did not run to admonish him. She told the Empress Dowager about this matter and let the Empress Dowager know how foolish he was. The Empress Dowager unhappily called Ning Shu over and scolded him, saying that it was fine to dote on a woman, but he could not break the rules of the ancestors. Ning Shu directly said that Zhen could not make decisions in court. Could it be that Zhen could not even dote on a concubine? What was there that Zhen could decide? Ning Shu still did things his way and doted on Ping Fangi even more. After the morning assembly, he called Ping Fangi to Xuanda Hall to help him grind ink. How much was this doting? Ping Fangi faced the concubine's piercing gazes and wanted to roll her eyes. To be honest, she did not understand what this man was thinking. He said that he doted on her, but after so long, who did not clap when they were in bed together? He liked to call her to eat when he had nothing to do, or express his dissatisfaction with the Empress Dowager and a group of officials in front of her. Ping Fangi only listened and did not express any opinions. This was the first time she encountered such a situation. The man seemed to dote on her, but did not have any favorable impression of her. If a man truly loved a woman and was lying in bed with her, would he not have any desire, or was it impossible? Ping Fangi felt speechless. This emperor was stubborn. She tried to clap her hands to exercise, but he seemed to have a pure heart and few desires. He did not seem to have any intention of having sex. She was completely unable to find a way to improve their relationship. The emperor ate a lot of good things every day. Ping Fangyi could not find a special way to win this man over. Not only did she not win him over, but she also attracted the hatred of a large group of people. The concubines in the harem, and even the Empress Dowager did not like her. It was as if she was Su Daji who wanted to bring disaster to the country. If it was true, Ping Fangyi felt that it did not matter. After all, she could leave after winning the emperor's heart. But now, she did not gain anything. Instead, her situation in the palace was not good. Shuanglu Hall. A concubine was doing needlework. She had a tranquil temperament and was communicating with the system in her mind. Ping Fangyi has already won the emperor's favor. I'm afraid that it will not be long before she wins the emperor's heart and leaves. Are we still not going to act? The concubine frowned and put down the needlework in her hand. There was a golden dragon embroidered on it. The dragon was very lifelike. In this harem, the empress was reborn. She hates the emperor, so she does not care who the emperor favors. The empress is not the best partner. The Empress Dowager hopes that her son will become a wise emperor, but she does not want to give up the power in her hands. You can start from the Empress Dowager and gain the emperor's favor. The system's voice in her mind was calm and steady. The concubine did not pay attention and pricked her finger with a needle. Drops of blood came out from her white finger. Do you really want me to fight for the Empress Dowager's favor? The concubine bit her lips. Her expression was somewhat resistant. Do you really want to see me and other men? The mission is important. In the harem, only the emperor's favor is your bargaining chip against Ping Fangyi. But you have to be careful. Do not make the Empress Dowager hate you. The Empress Dowager does not like concubines who seduce the Empress Dowager. The system said calmly. Its low voice had a calmness that made people feel calm. All right. The concubine sucked the blood on her finger. I have to make it again. Since it is a gift for the Empress Dowager, it cannot be a dragon. The concubine's brows were a little depressed. She started to embroider again, but no matter how hard she tried, she could not do it well. She kept pricking her finger and the cloth was stained with blood. Do I really want to go with the emperor? The concubine asked the system. I have given you the simplest and most effective method. Do you have any other methods? The system said. The concubine bit her lip and angrily threw the thing on the table. I don't want to take this kind of mission in the future. The system said. The concubine's mood improved a little. Her face revealed a smile. Chapter 23-24. After her son doted on a woman without limit, the Empress Dowager found another problem with her son. That was, after the court, he locked himself in the bedroom to sleep. An emperor, doing nothing all day and sleeping during the day, completely looked like an unemployed youth. The Empress Dowager was about to explode in anger, especially when she went to the bedroom. She found that the emperor had closed the door and did not open for a long time. The Empress Dowager said that she was sorry to the late emperor, sorry to the ancestors, sorry to the court, sorry to the people. Ning Shu was cultivating in the bed with earplugs. In the end, the Empress Dowager asked someone to break open the door, took Ning Shu out of the bed and reprimanded him. Ning Shu ignored it all. Emperor, are you using this method to fight against me? I've said it before. Before you truly become a good emperor, I won't give up my power. The more you act like this, the more I won't give up my power. How can I face the late emperor if you act like this? The previous emperors were all secretly thinking about power all day. At least they knew how to make progress, but now, the Empress Dowager really did not want to see her son's decadent appearance. It was too boring. She did not know what her son would do in the future. The Empress Dowager knew that if the emperor was mischievous, it would be terrible. There was an emperor who asked the palace servants to take off their clothes and sit on the boat. Then he asked someone to overturn the boat. He clapped his hands and watched the palace servants struggling in the water, with the palace servants, with the dogs, with the fierce dogs. Those were all beasts, licentious and immoral. The more the Empress Dowager looked, the more she felt that her son was developing in this direction, especially now that her son had disregarded the rules and doted on a woman in the harem. He broke the rules, and in the future, he would be more and more excessive. In the end, it would be out of control. Just the imagination made the Empress Dowager tremble with anger. She loudly scolded Ningxu. "Emperor, you always blame Ijia for not giving you the military power. Look at you want to make the country disappear." Ningxu sighed. "Zhen is just sleeping. How is it related to the country? Can't an emperor sleep? This is a matter of attitude. Look at you. Do you look like you want to be a good emperor? During this time, you should reflect on your mistakes and think about the responsibilities of an emperor." The Empress Dowager angrily flicked her sleeves and turned to leave. Ningxu stretched and said to Xiao Lu, "Have you prepared the things I asked you to prepare?" "All right, Your Majesty." Xiao Lu Zi took out the eunuch's clothes and put them on Ningxu. He also had another eunuch put on Ningxu's clothes. After everything was ready, Xiao Lu went out and said to the eunuch guarding the door, "The emperor said that no one is allowed to disturb him." Ningxu lowered his head and followed Xiao Liuzi to the palace gate. At the foot of the wall, Xiao Liuzi gave the waist token to Ningxu and asked worriedly, "Emperor, do you really not want this servant to go with you? It's too dangerous. What if the Empress Dowager finds out?" "It's fine. Give me some silver," Ningxu said. Xiao Liuzi quickly took out a purse and said with a worried expression, "Emperor, do you want to inform the Empress Dowager? If I inform her, I won't be able to go out." Ningxu put away the things and slipped out of the palace. He took out a map and looked at it. He bought a set of clothes from a clothing store and fanned himself with a fan. A scholar was born. Ningxu thought about the list of officials and planned to visit them one by one. Ningxu investigated the list of officials. You should know that the harem was a center of gossip. If you want to know the news of a person, you can inquire about it in the palace. Although it was the harem, there were palace maids and eunuchs who can go out of the palace and hear all kinds of gossip. For example, which official's concubine was beautiful, which official favored his wife and neglected his concubine, and which official's wife was valiant. If it was a low-key official, Ningxu will ask Xiao Liuzi to investigate and let the eunuchs go out of the palace to find out the gossip. After Ningxu's observation for a period of time, Xiao Liuzi can be regarded as the person who entrusted the job. Xiao Liuzi was also worried about the person who entrusted the job, but he was more afraid of the Empress Dowager. Every time, he helped to persuade the person who entrusted the job. His heart was on the side of the person who entrusted the job, but the Empress Dowager was too strong. Xiao Liuzi felt that his whole person was not very good. The faction struggle in the court was complicated. Some officials had to join a faction to protect themselves in order to avoid disaster. Of course, there were also those who did not join the faction. Although they were not unlucky, it meant that they could not be promoted. At present, the Shun family was the most powerful in the court. The old general had a large number of soldiers. There was an Empress Dowager and an Empress in the harem. Ningxu found the address of an official and knocked on the door to enter. The servant did not know Ningxu, but seeing Ningxu's scholarly appearance, he went to report to the master. Ningxu visited the officials one by one. Some of the officials did not even have the chance to attend the court. But when they saw Ningxu, they were very excited. Ningxu chatted with these officials for a while. They talked about various topics. At the same time, he also observed these officials. Then he made a checkmark in his heart. Before he left, he reminded them not to tell anyone and to keep it absolutely confidential. Some people were removed from Ningxu's list. After visiting the officials one by one, Ningxu was hungry. He walked to the door of the Shun family's house. The Shun family's house looked very imposing. There were 2 big lions at the door. The lions were lifelike and ferocious. The surface of the lions was polished and smooth. Ningxu looked at the stone lions for a while. Then he walked to the door. There were 4 servants guarding the door. They stopped Ningxu. "Who are you? What are you doing in the general's house?" "I am here to look for old General Shin. Please inform him." The servant looked up and down at Ningxu. Then he pushed Ningxu. "Where did this poor scholar come from? Old General Shin is not someone you can see whenever you want. Please inform him that Murong is here. Ning Shu held a fan and cupped his hands. Get lost. This is the general's house. Not just any random cat or dog can come here. Ning Shu saw the sedan chair from the corner of his eye. He deliberately moved closer to the servant. You didn't inform him. How can you not know that the general won't see me? Get lost. Don't you know where to make a scene? The servant directly pushed Ning Shu to the ground. Ning Shu rolled in front of the sedan chair. The sedan chair stopped. The sedan chair driver lifted the curtain. It was General Shin who walked out. General Shin and the Empress Dowager were siblings. He was the Empress's father. He was his uncle and his father-in-law. General Shin looked at Ning Shu, who was sitting on the ground. He seemed to be a little afraid to recognize him. Emperor? Uncle, it's Zhen. Zhen came to look for you, but I can't get in. Ning Shu said with a smile. The veins on General Shin's forehead jumped. He wanted to get angry at the servant who hit him. Ning Shu was magnanimous. Those who don't know are not guilty. Uncle, don't blame them. However, your Shin family's door is really not easy to enter. Chapter 23-25. General Chen was clearly more frightened than surprised by the sudden appearance of the emperor, and it seemed that his own servants had chased the emperor out. Why didn't the emperor bring anyone with him? It's too dangerous. General Chen hurriedly let Ning Shu in. Ning Shu looked around the general's mansion and said to General Chen, "Why is it different from when Jin came last time? It's bigger than before." Emperor, it's because there are more people in the family, so it was expanded. General Chen said. Ning Shu nodded. It's better than before, not bad. General Chen changed the topic. Emperor came alone? Yes, Jin wanted to come out for a walk. The palace is too stuffy. Imperial Mother talks about Jin every day. Jin also wants to be a good emperor, but Jin might not be born a good emperor, so Jin secretly came out. Don't tell Imperial Mother. Ning Shu said. Uncle, Jin is hungry. This subject will arrange it. When the emperor came home, the entire general's mansion became restless. Old General Chen was an old man with white hair, but his spirit was very good. He was now over 70 years old. Ning Shu had to call him grandfather, saying that the Chen family should be the biggest relatives. Old General Chen looked at Ning Shu with a kind of benevolence, scolding with half-truth and half-lies. In the future, you can't be so reckless, sneaking out of the palace and not bringing anyone with you. The emperor's safety is related to the throne. Next time, Zhen will definitely bring someone. This time Zhen came alone. I almost couldn't even enter the door. Ning Shu said. Who fought with the emperor? This old subject will help the emperor vent his anger. Old General Chen said as he slammed the table, his body emitting a murderous aura. No need, they don't know Zhen. What's more, the Chen family is big, not just anyone can act wildly. Ning Shu said. The food was quickly prepared. Ning Shu looked at the rich food on the table. It looks delicious. It's just plain tea, as long as the emperor doesn't dislike it. General Chen said. How can that be? The food in the palace is just like that. But every time we eat, we can't eat more than 3 mouthfuls of a dish. Even if we want to try more, we can't. On the dining table, there were flashes of swords. Ning Shu only had one purpose, and that was to take back the military power from the hands of old General Shin. Ning Shu wanted to register a new military power and cancel the military power in old General Shin's hands, but the world knew that the Shin family held the military power. Therefore, there had to be such a show to tell the imperial court and the military that the Shin family had handed over their military power. Old General Shin's skills were very high. Even though Ning Shu had probed him in many ways, old General Shin had no intention of handing over his military power. He had the authority to send out troops, but without power, he couldn't do anything. Although the emperor was a supreme existence in the world, without authority in his hands, he was still useless. His words carried enormous weight. That was because he had power in his hands. Without power, who would give a shit? The conflict between Ning Shu and the Shin family was over military power. The Shin family was afraid that they would get rid of the hares and the hounds, so they refused to give up. Ning Shu promised that he would not do anything to the Shen family. As to whether or not old General Shen listened, it was unknown. If you hand over your military power, I will give you a death exemption. Even if the old General Shen died now, or if someone else ascended the throne, this conflict would always exist. Coming out of the Shen family, Ning Shu said with a smile, "Uncle's home is really comfortable. You eat delicacies, sleep on a high bed, and have a group of servants. But you still have to restrain the servants. Don't let the world think that the general's Fu can even beat the emperor." "Emperor, please forgive me." Even if the Shen family's minds were clear, it didn't mean that everyone's mind was clear. There would always be people who relied on their power to throw their weight around. Ning Shu changed back into the Taijin's clothes and returned to the palace. The Empress Dowager was waiting for him in the bedchamber. Before the Empress Dowager could speak, Ning Shu spoke first. Zhen went to find uncle, but was beaten up for blocking the door. Empress Dowager. All of the Empress Dowager's words were stuck in her throat. The Empress on the side immediately said, "Emperor, it's those servants who don't recognize Emperor. Qinxie will definitely have my father teach them a lesson. Emperor, you still have to tell Muhu in the future. Muhu is very worried." Ning Shu glanced at the Empress. He understood the Empress's hatred, but it didn't mean that he agreed. As the Emperor, his lifeline was held by someone else. He was a puppet emperor. In the battle with the Shen family lost. Considering his wife and mother, he didn't kill the Shen family, but exiled them all. If the Shen family was willing to hand over their military power, it wouldn't be like this. No matter who became the emperor, the Shen family would be a thorn that had to be pulled out. The Empress was forcing her own actions onto the old general. She seemed to have done many things for the old general, but the old general was so heartless and ungrateful. The old general was fighting more with the Empress Dowager and the Shen family. In the middle, the Empress seemed to be mediating, but in reality, it was useless. Now, she blamed her actions on the old general being ungrateful. But she didn't think that the two sides needed to mediate. Other than shouting in the middle, it was useless. "I love you and have done so much. If you don't accept it or return it, you are heartless." Because of the Shen family and the Empress Dowager, the old general was cold to the Empress and was not close to her. He just didn't like the Empress. As for what the Empress did, he didn't care at all. It could only be said that each side had their own position. In the Empress's heart, it was normal to think that the old general was a heartless man. But for a man, nothing was more important than power. Ning Shu grinned and said, "Yes, I was scared when I went to the general's mansion. There were so many guards at the door. If I didn't know, I would have thought that I was at the gate of the palace. Your Majesty, don't sneak out in the future. It's dangerous to go out alone." The Empress Dowager said helplessly and didn't continue this topic. She knew that the emperor didn't want to listen to her nagging, so he kept talking about the Shen family. She was really weak. The Empress Dowager couldn't teach Ning Shu a lesson for a while, so she left with the Empress. As soon as the Empress Dowager left, Xiaolu felt alive. He was sweating all over and said to Ning Shu, "Your Majesty, you are back. It was fun outside the palace. I will go there next time." Xiaolu sat on the ground with a plop. A eunuch came to inform Ning Shu that he would have dinner in the Empress Dowager's palace. Ning Shu hummed. It was really difficult to move. When he went to the Empress Dowager's palace for dinner, he saw an imperial concubine. The Empress Dowager intimately pulled Ning Shu to sit down. The imperial concubine was serving the dishes. Ning Shu looked at the imperial concubine and asked, "Who is this?" "Forgive her." The old general didn't even remember his own harem. How could she know? The imperial concubine saluted politely. She was not sad because Ning Shu didn't remember at all. She said, "Your Majesty, I am a good beauty." "Oh," Ning Shu replied, sizing up Beauty Liang. When the Empress Dowager saw that Ning Shu was staring at the good beauty, she said that she wanted to be equal and have children. Then she praised the good beauty. From the beginning to the end, the good beauty lowered her head and looked a little shy. When she raised her head, there was a quiet smile on the corner of her mouth. She was a very comfortable woman. Chapter 23-26. Ning Shu ate and finally agreed to spend the night with Beauty Liang. When Beauty Liang heard Ning Shu's words, the chopsticks in her hand trembled. Although her expression was calm, Ning Shu still felt her resistance. The women in the harem all hoped to be favored by the emperor. After all, women also had normal physiological needs. Moreover, there was the temptation of power behind this favor, but Beauty Liang resisted. Ning Shu felt that it was interesting. When a woman refused to be close to other men, it was mostly because her heart belonged to someone else. Men loved because of sex, women loved because of sex. The harem of the client was simply lively. After eating in the Empress Dowager's palace, Ning Shu and Beauty Liang went to Beauty Liang's palace. Along the way, Beauty Liang did not speak. She was very boring, like a block of wood. Ning Shu did not mind. When they arrived at the palace, Beauty Liang poured tea for Ning Shu. Then she washed up and went to bed. Beauty Liang finally found an excuse. Emperor, Qinxia's abdomen is a little uncomfortable. Are you okay? Do you want me to call the imperial physician? Ning Shu asked. No need, it's an old problem. Qinxia likes to eat spicy food, so there is always something wrong with her stomach. Beauty Liang said. Ning Shu made an O sound, then sleep. Beauty Liang breathed a sigh of relief and said thank you to the emperor in a low voice. Ning Shu felt that it was very interesting. Since she was not willing, why did she come up? Now that Ping Fangyi was in the limelight in the harem, Beauty Liang came to the Empress Dowager to act obedient at this time. The Empress Dowager hated Ping Fangyi now and needed a harem woman to balance her. It was not that the Empress Dowager did not know Beauty Liang's intention, but she was willing to help. But now that the emperor was beside her, she was not willing. Could it be that someone forced her? Ning Shu thought about all kinds of questions in his mind. Beauty Liang's body stiffened and did not dare to approach Ning Shu. Ning Shu sighed. She looked like a bully who bullied a good woman. There was a flood in Pengzhou and the situation was serious. The court officials were arguing over the quota for disaster relief. Ning Shu sat on the dragon throne with his head propped up and watched the people of the 6 tribes argue. The silver was the Ministry of Revenue's matter, but the Ministry of War said that the disaster was serious and needed the army to guard it to prevent a civil uprising. In order to compete for the quota for disaster relief, several factions had a tacit understanding that they were greedy for some money. Also, when the imperial court officials went to the local areas, there were also benefits. There were also exchanges between the officials and the rice merchants. In short, a large chain of interests was involved. In the end, after a lot of arguing, Ning Shu decided who should go. Let's choose him. That guy from the Ministry of Revenue will go. Ning Shu pointed at an official, who immediately knelt down and thanked him, saying that he wouldn't let the emperor down and would resolve the flood. Ning Shu left the court with an annoyed look on his face. The next day, when the court was held again, the official from the Ministry of Revenue who was sent to the disaster relief was impeached. The memorials were like snowflakes, and all of them had conclusive evidence of corruption and bribery. Ning Shu looked as if he had been slapped in the face and was furious. He directly removed the official from the Ministry of Revenue and investigated him. Then he said at lightning speed, "As for the vacant position, it will be promoted by the next level." But right, who is the next level? Everyone was speechless. No matter what, they now needed to choose a new person to go to the disaster relief. Ning Shu didn't choose the newly promoted official from the Ministry of Revenue. Instead, he chose other officials. In any case, he didn't choose officials from the Shun family's faction. He wanted to see if there would be more memorials tomorrow. As expected, the memorials came again the next day. The imperial censor listed all kinds of crimes. Ning Shu's face turned red as he angrily removed the official from the Ministry of Revenue. As for the vacant position, it would be filled by the next level. Ning Shu chose a new official, and it was still not from the Shun family's faction. This time, the official named by Ning Shu looked as if he had nothing to live for. The previous 2 were a lesson to be learned from the mistakes of the previous 2. Things could only be done twice, but not thrice. This time, the impeachment didn't come again. However, no matter how the 2 sides fought, they still impeached each other. There were people eyeing the vacant position. Most importantly, after experiencing the matter of the previous two officials, the officials sent to the disaster relief this time would definitely be much more honest to avoid being caught. This was especially true when they were accompanied by the army. The army was the Shen family's people. The officials were in a state of constant surveillance. It was really interesting to compete with these people. After the court session, the Empress Dowager ran over to Ning Shu and reprimanded, "How can the court be so sloppy in its use of people? You don't even know what kind of person the officials are before promoting them." Ning Shu asked in return, "Then Imperial Mother, how should they be promoted? Shouldn't it be filled by the next level?" The Empress Dowager didn't know what to say for a moment. She could only say, "The Emperor should be good at using talents. At least, he should first understand the character of the officials. Then say that the court uses people based on my mood. Whoever I think is good will be promoted. Isn't it based on work experience?" Ning Shu asked. "No." "Then Imperial Mother, what do you want me to do?" Ning Shu asked. "Wasn't it just using people from the Shen family's faction? If he used people from the Shen family, the court would become a place where the Shen family had the final say." The Empress Dowager looked deeply at Ning Shu. Her expression was a bit complicated. She said, "Emperor, do whatever you want." "Imperial Mother, have you ever dreamed of Imperial Father? In the dream, Imperial Father scolded me for being a good-for-nothing. I asked Imperial Father why he said that. Imperial Father said that I was already in my 20s, and he still wanted Imperial Mother to work hard for me. I promised Imperial Father that I would take good care of Imperial Mother and let Imperial Mother live comfortably for the rest of her life. I will be filial to Imperial Mother and raise her with the world." So what if he was a Qianlong once? Hearing this, the Empress Dowager's mouth couldn't help but twitch. This was too straightforward. When she heard that he would raise her with the world, the Empress Dowager's expression became even more complicated. "Emperor, you are my child. I naturally want you to be well." Ning Shu and the Empress Dowager reminisced for a long time. The Empress Dowager wiped away her tears and left. Ning Shu's face was expressionless. After saying so much, he still didn't have any intention of giving up power. Wasn't this just like how the family was rich but insisted on letting people eat coarse cornbread while saying, "Child, I love you"? It was too greasy and too unsatisfying. Of course, even if there was cornbread to eat, one wouldn't starve to death. He still had to fight. Once the Empress Dowager left, Ning Shu quickly called Ping Fangyi over to play. When Ping Fangyi saw Ning Shu, she scolded Ning Shu in her heart. She deeply suspected that her system was broken. Why was the favorability level always 0? This was pretty much the hardest emperor to deal with. In the past, it wasn't even this hard to figure out how to obtain the emperor's heart. At most, the emperor's favorability level would rise and fall, and they seemed to be temperamental. This bastard's favorability level was stable and stopped at 0. It didn't go up or down. This made Ping Fangyi want to scold him and strangle him. Ping Fangyi's heart was filled with anger. No matter what she did, the favorability level wouldn't go up. She had to force a smile on her face because she wanted to obtain the emperor's heart, the pure love of an emperor. Chapter 23-27. After playing with Noble Lady Ping for a few rounds, Ning Shu wantonly rewarded Noble Lady Ping. He didn't promote her rank, instead he rewarded her with gold, silver, and jewelry. Anything precious was sent to her palace. Although her rank didn't rise, her monthly salary increased. Ping Fangyi was the most favored person in the harem. When Noble Lady Ping received the things sent by Xiao Liuzi, the smile on her face couldn't be maintained. Xiao Liuzi was still congratulating Noble Lady Ping for being the first in the harem. Noble Lady Ping's heart exploded like a nuclear bomb. She had the maid take out the money to thank Xiao Liuzi. Noble Lady Ping looked at the favorability column. There was a big duck egg. She put her hand on her forehead and fainted. Noble Lady Ping was sick and couldn't serve the emperor. The concubines in the harem wanted to set off firecrackers. Without Noble Lady Ping, their chance came. When Ning Shu heard that Noble Lady Ping was sick, he rushed to Noble Lady Ping's palace. He grabbed Noble Lady Ping's hand and comforted her. "Beloved concubine, don't be afraid. Zhen will definitely let the imperial physician cure you. If they can't cure you, Zhen will let them be buried with you. Ping Fangyi's mouth twitched. If it wasn't for the big duck egg, she would have believed him and thought that he really fell in love with her. The imperial physician at the side. Emperor, Ping Fangyi just had a bad diet and caught a cold. It's nothing serious. She still had to be buried with him. Even if Ping Fangyi was sick, Ning Shu still stayed by Ping Fangyi's side. He wasn't afraid of the illness at all. The concubines who thought they had a chance ran to the Empress Dowager and cried like dogs. Ping Fangyi was about to go crazy because of this crazy man. It seemed like he was really good to her, but when the favorability rose, he didn't always use her as a target. She couldn't be the target of his true love, right? On the surface, he doted on her and let her attract the fire. Then, the emperor's true love would hide in the corner. She was the clearest about the drama in the harem. After all, to seize the emperor's heart, how could there be no competition in the harem? This time, Ping Fangyi felt that all the concubines in the harem had a chance of being the emperor's true love. Immediately, Ping Fangyi thought about it. A target was a target. At least she could come into contact with the emperor. Her true love was hiding in a corner. Watching her beloved man being affectionate with another woman was heart-wrenching. During the period when Ping Fangyi was sick, Ning Shu stayed in the Empress Dowager's palace all the time. He was not afraid of infecting the Empress Dowager at all. But every time, Ning Shu would neither soften nor harden her anger. The eyes of all the women in the harem turned red, and a strong sense of resentment emanated from the bodies of the imperial concubines. The official who was sent out for disaster relief had been killed. When the news came back, it was said that he had been killed by the mobs who were snatching the food when they were distributing the relief food. He was almost trampled into meat paste. Ning Shu face-bombed and glanced at old General Shen, who was standing in front of him. Old General Shen was unperturbed, as if it had nothing to do with him. Ning Shu stared blankly and said, "I think it's poisonous. Why is it that the people I sent out were either found out or killed? Isn't there an army to maintain order? How did this happen? I beg for forgiveness. It's my fault for not making proper arrangements." Old General Shen knelt down and cupped his fists to beg for forgiveness. This was the result of having no power in his hands. He was controlled by others. As for the truth of the official's death, no one cared. If there was someone, there was hope. But there was no one on hand. Ning Shu seemed to be disheartened. He had someone replace the position of the dead official and let the replacement official continue to provide disaster relief. When the court was dismissed, Ning Shu left behind the official who was going to provide disaster relief. He said, "Minister Su, if you can provide disaster relief this time, do your best to provide disaster relief. Do your best to follow the army and protect your life. At the same time, pay attention to everything around you. Do you understand the underworld? It's more important to get evidence." "Yes, I will remember." Ning Shu said loudly to the door, "Minister Su, I want you to provide disaster relief. The disaster relief money and food are in the hands of the disaster victims. Otherwise, I will hold you responsible." When Su Chang'an went out, his face was full of worry. Ning Shu felt that he had good acting skills. In any case, Ning Shu did not know what the Shen family wanted to do. There was a large interest group behind the Shen family. The interest of this group was probably not something the Shen family could control. The Shen family was riding a tiger and it was difficult to get off. The official was impeached and killed. It was all for the interest of the group. They were all in the same boat, forming cliques for personal gain. With the Shen family's current status, there were definitely people who wanted to rely on them. The Shen family had to ensure the interests of the interest group. After the court, Ning Shu began to sleep. While he was sleeping, Ning Shu ran out of the palace again. He wandered around and secretly visited some officials. Ning Shu knew that many eyes were on him, so he changed his appearance. Like a thief, every time before he returned to the palace, he would go to the Shen family and have a meal there before returning home. Of course, it was not just a simple meal. After returning to the palace, the Empress Dowager was waiting for Ning Shu. When she saw Ning Shu, she heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 23-28. The emperor treated Ping Fangyi so well that the imperial concubines in the harem bit their handkerchiefs. They couldn't figure out what was so good about Ping Fangyi that made the emperor treat her so well. Beauty Liang was especially worried and felt extremely pressured. If this continued, Ping Fangyi would get the emperor's heart and leave this world. The strategy system would run away and her system wouldn't be able to devour this system. Now Beauty Liang couldn't care about her chastity and went to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager used the same trick again. She was telling Ning Shu clearly that he had to favor other concubines now. Ning Shu felt that Beauty Liang was quite interesting. She was obviously unwilling but still wanted to force him. Why bother? Ning Shu investigated Beauty Liang's family. It was an ordinary scholarly family. They didn't have much power in the imperial court. The most powerful official in the family was the Ministry of Rights. So, what was Beauty Liang's situation? Ning Shu directly refused. He said that Ping Fangyi was sick now. He didn't have the mood to care for the concubine who was about to leave. If Ping Fangyi was sad now and her illness worsened, he didn't want to live anymore. The Empress Dowager pinched her chopsticks. She thought that she might as well let Ping Fangyi die of illness. The Empress Dowager then said, "Emperor, you are the emperor. You can't favor one woman and can't let others see your obvious preferences." Ning Shu didn't speak. He just looked at the Empress Dowager. Ning Shu felt that this Empress Dowager wasn't smart. In history, Empress Dowager Cixi ruled a dynasty for half a century. Every time the emperor ascended the throne, it was a small radish head. It created an opportunity for Cixi to govern from behind the curtain. However, Cixi didn't put her family in an important position. She didn't give her nephew a high position. Even if she hated Cixi to the core, she didn't have any weakness. She tied her personal interests and the imperial family's interests together to protect the entire dynasty. She dealt with the relationship between her husband's family and her family. She still had to fight with her brothers-in-law. But this Empress Dowager, her relatives monopolized power. She still had power in her hands. Now that the Shen family was powerful, almost the entire imperial court was controlled by the Shen family. The harem was controlled by the women of the Shen family. No one in the imperial court said anything, but that didn't mean that the imperial court officials were convinced. Now, even the babies in the Shen family had an official position. Although it was an idle position, it represented that their status was different from now on. They did not have to go through the hard work of studying to become an official. When things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. He didn't believe that the Shen family didn't understand this. However, retreating might not guarantee their safety. Perhaps the Shen family could only take the risk and fight back. Ning Shu had to guard against the Shen family. "Emperor, Jia is talking to you. Why are you in a daze?" The Empress Dowager saw Ning Shu staring at her and couldn't help but ask. "Mother, I dreamt of Fodder again." The corners of the Empress Dowager's mouth twitched. She was speechless. The Empress Dowager wanted to hand over her power, but she couldn't predict what would happen after that, especially for the Shen family. Ning Shu held his head and wondered if he should be a thief for a while and steal the military power from the Empress Dowager's hands. How could the Empress Dowager give her a proper reason to steal it? Otherwise, she would be labeled as unfilial. Did he really think that he could do whatever he wanted as the emperor? Ning Shu blinked and looked at the Empress Dowager. "Mother, I hope that you can live a comfortable life. I will support you with the world. I hope that Mother can live a long life. You are the blessing of the country." The Empress Dowager smiled. "It's good that the emperor has this intention. I don't ask for anything. I just hope that the emperor can be a good emperor." Ning Shu was speechless. The Shen family liked to play dumb like this. Ning Shu felt impatient. He guessed that the client's heart was in a state of volcanic eruption every day. In the end, Ning Shu simply chose to work in Ping Fangyi's palace. Except for the time when he went to the imperial court, he stayed by Ping Fangyi's side. Ping Fangyi was speechless. Beauty Liang was speechless. The two concubines felt that Ning Shu was seriously ill. Ping Fangyi felt that this man was too difficult to understand. And Beauty Liang felt that the emperor had been fascinated by Ping Fangyi, who had a strategy system. His love was beyond cure. Now they were entangled together. He even had to review memorials in Ping Fangyi's palace. And Lu Jiaoyi, who was grounded, heard that the emperor she admired actually liked a woman so much. He was obviously not close to women. How could he like a woman so much? Why not her? What was the meaning of her transmigration? Wasn't it to advance hand in hand with the emperor, who was trapped in the shallows, to know and protect each other, and finally overlook the prosperous country? Lu Jiaoyi didn't know what she did wrong. She was grounded by the emperor. She could only silently swallow her grievances. Should she go around saying that the emperor framed her? She also didn't know when the emperor would remember her. Lu Jiaoyi couldn't think of any way to help the emperor get through this difficult time. Ning Shu was like this every day. After the imperial court, he went to Ping Fangyi's palace and forced Ping Fangyi to get up from the bed. She said to Ning Shu, "Emperor, Qinxia's illness is better." Chapter 23-29. Can you die if you like me? So what if you love me? Ping Fangyi was full of resentment, but when Ning Shu turned around, she had a tranquil smile on her face. Ning Shu also smiled, and Ping Fangyi smiled at each other. From Ping Fangyi, he didn't feel any love or affection. She used her cold heart to ask for the sincerity of others. It was fine to cheat a fool, but she actually cheated the emperor who didn't lack women and wanted to get the sincerity. Sincerity was a good thing. The power of the heart was very mysterious and powerful. For example, the power of faith, the heart of true love, and so on. Especially the emperor, his fate was very strong. Under the heavens, all the land belonged to the emperor. All the generals who led the army were the emperor's subjects. The world was under the control of the emperor. How much fate and merit did one have to become an emperor? The emperor's heart of true love and admiration. How much power did it contain? Ping Fangyi saw Ning Shu's smile, and her whole body shivered. Until the time set by the system was up, she still couldn't complete the mission of conquering the emperor. Her mission failed. Ping Fangyi felt that everything was going smoothly before, but why did she fail this time? Could it be that the emperor didn't like women? 23:33. The system over there is about to break away. Oh, I thought you were in a daze. Ning Shu arrived at Ping Fangyi's palace. Ping Fangyi was waiting for the system's punishment, hoping that the system would give her another chance. Ping Fangyi actually wanted to leave this world. She felt an unprecedented frustration here. She suspected that her charm was useless, and all her psychological attacks were useless. Her useless beauty was also useless. This wasn't a man, but a eunuch. Even if he was a eunuch, his root was gone, but his thoughts were still there. Ping Fangyi didn't want to entertain Ning Shu at all. She lied on the bed and said that she wasn't feeling well. Ning Shu said that it was fine and that he would guard her. Ping Fangyi's body trembled. In a situation where the discussion was fruitless, her system was about to break away from her. It was about to throw her into this strange era, a terrifying harem. 23:33. When the system broke away from Ping Fangyi, it instantly started to attack the system. Ping Fangyi held her head and groaned in pain. She felt that her soul was about to explode. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Could it be that this system also wanted to absorb Ping Fangyi's soul? Many systems would squeeze all the value out of the host when they left, even taking away the host's soul. Ning Shu felt an invisible shockwave sweeping out from the battle. All kinds of antiques on the shelf fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Ning Shu looked at the pained Ping Fangyi with a horrified expression and asked, "What happened? What's wrong with you? Why are you in so much pain? Is there a ghost in your bedroom?" Ping Fangyi held her head, the veins on her forehead popping out. She gritted her teeth and said, "How would I know?" After a period of time, the turmoil finally calmed down. Ning Shu said to Ping Fangyi, who was sweating profusely, "We need to find a sorcerer to exorcise the evil." "Your palace." Ping Fangyi didn't say anything. She was already staring at the top of the bed. Ning Shu sighed and turned to leave. When he was out of the bedroom, he said to 23:33, "It's done." Oh, it's done. This system chose a host as a vessel and then swallowed the original soul in the body. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. That meant that the original soul in the body had been swallowed. This was a bit interesting. Swallowing your soul, using your body to seduce the emperor and seize the emperor's heart. After seizing the emperor's heart, the system would quickly run away. Without a soul, the body would naturally die. He wondered how many worlds this system had visited. System, someone beat me to it. Beauty Liang's system said in a deep voice. After listening carefully, it sounded a bit dissatisfied. What? Beauty Liang was suddenly surprised and asked, how is this possible? Could there be other mission enforcers here? I felt the shockwave from the battle before. It should be the system. There should be other mission enforcers here. The system sorted out all the people that Beauty Liang had seen. The Empress Dowager, the Emperor, and the concubines of the various palaces. It analyzed who could be the mission enforcer and seized the strategy system before him. The system was a bit helpless. This system should be extremely good. It would constantly search for a host and help the host find a body. Seizing the emperor's heart was better than seizing the hearts of 100 people. Moreover, the system would absorb the host and the soul of the owner of the body. What a pity! Then who could be the mission enforcer? Beauty Liang frowned and asked. The system said coldly, what do you think? I'm afraid it's the emperor. Sigh, I'm sorry. I originally came here to do the system's mission, but I didn't expect there to be other mission enforcers. I even lost the system so that you can't swallow the system. Beauty Liang was apologetic and blamed herself. System, it's a small matter. However, please complete the mission properly. If the completion rate of 60% or 70% is too high, you will be wiped out. It's not for me but for your own life. Please complete the mission properly. The system said. Beauty Liang saw that the system had forgiven her and immediately promised, the next time I do the system's mission, I will work harder so that you can successfully swallow the system. Next time, I will do whatever you ask me to do. Sorry. The system just nodded. You can find a chance to test the mission enforcer. If the missions don't conflict, we can work together. Okay. Coming out of Ping Fangyi's palace, Ning Shu walked in the imperial garden. 2333 said, when I was fighting with the system just now, someone came in. It seems that there are other mission enforcers in this palace who wanted to take advantage of the situation. However, the system was taken away by me so he could only watch. 2333's tone had a hint of schadenfreude. Hearing that there were mission enforcers, Ning Shu first thought of the awkward Beauty Liang. If Beauty Liang was a mission enforcer, then her previous actions could be explained. He didn't know what the other's mission was. What if it conflicted with his own mission? What level of world is this? Ning Shu asked. Intermediate. Intermediate was actually so messy? She didn't know if the other party was a mission enforcer like her who did all kinds of worlds, or an intermediate mission enforcer. However, she had to find a chance to test it out. Under the circumstances where both parties were interested, Ning Shu and Beauty Liang sat on the same table. Ning Shu looked at Beauty Liang. Beauty Liang looked at Ning Shu generously. Your Majesty. Speak. Ning Shu said while drinking tea. You are a mission enforcer, right? Beauty Liang asked directly. Ning Shu ambiguously hummed. Even if he was sure that the other party was a mission enforcer, Ning Shu wouldn't be too friendly. After all, even if they were from the same company and organization, they were strangers. He had to be vigilant during the mission. Chapter 2330. When Ning Shu did things, she would not admit it if she could. She did not want to leave any evidence behind. Beauty Liang felt Ning Shu's cold expression, and her enthusiasm faded a little. She said, What is your mission? My mission is to deal with Ping Fangyi. This is the client's wish. Then what about your mission? What do you think my mission is? Ning Shu asked. Whatever you want to do, I have no opinion. This sentence was to tell Beauty Liang that there was no conflict between missions. Beauty Liang still wanted to say something, but the system probably said something to her, so she kept her mouth shut. Beauty Liang raised her teacup and clinked it with Ning Shu's teacup. She smiled and said, Then let's work together happily. Ning Shu just curled his lips and didn't say anything. Anyway, she didn't lose anything. The heart-snatching system had been absorbed by 2333. Another problem had been solved. As for the fight between this mission enforcer and Ping Fangyi, Ning Shu didn't care. The next thing was to solve the Shun family's problem. Only by taking down the Shun family could he have great power. Beauty Liang saw that Ning Shu was about to leave. She hesitated and said to Ning Shu, "Can I ask you for a favor?" "Say it." Since there was no conflict, he would help if he could. But if it hindered him, sorry, he couldn't help. "Can you stay for a night?" Beauty Liang said. Ning Shu felt that this girl or man should be relatively new. Maybe it was just a facade. Ning Shu immediately raised his eyebrows. "If you stay, aren't you afraid of something happening?" After all, now that he had a body, he could feel the joy of sex. When Beauty Liang heard this, she immediately showed a resistant expression. If it was just a mission enforcer, she wouldn't be willing to leave this world. But now it was an internal member of the organization. It felt like an office rape. How awkward would it be if they met in the future? If the other party spread it everywhere, how bad would it be? Because Ning Shu was currently in a man's body, Beauty Liang also believed that Ning Shu was a man. When she heard that something was going to happen, Beauty Liang panicked, especially under the system's gaze. Beauty Liang could not do such a thing with another man. Ning Shu was a little surprised to see Beauty Liang in such a dilemma. This mission enforcer was probably the most cautious person Ning Shu had ever seen. How did someone with such a personality choose to become a mission enforcer? Ning Shu understood Beauty Liang's thoughts. The emperor slept in his palace for a night. This was a favor. Actually, she was overthinking things. After dealing with the system in Ping Fangyi's body, she would not care about Ping Fangyi anymore. If Ping Fangyi could stay in the harem, it would be fine. As for whether she could stay or not, it would depend on how many worlds Ping Fangyi had traversed and how many methods she had used to win the hearts of the emperors. Ping Fangyi's system chose to leave so early because it smelled danger. Liang Maida could deal with Ping Fangyi. There was no need for her to add flowers to the brocade. After all, Ping Fangyi was about to fall out of favor. "Then I'll be leaving." Ning Shu flicked his sleeves and left. Who told you to make the decision to let him stay? Even if Beauty Liang's system was scolding people, it still had a lingering feeling that was hard to refuse. Hearing the system's words, Beauty Liang smiled brightly. So it was jealous? He took away the most valuable thing on Ping Fangyi's body. What else does Ping Fangyi have that is worthy of his attention? The system sighed. "Gu, you have many methods. You know medicine and hypnotism. Why don't you use these skills? Also, as a mission enforcer, you don't need to be so weak in front of him." Gu Yi stuck out her tongue. "Didn't I forget? I will pay attention next time. Besides, I still have you to give me hints." The system did not speak. Ning Shu returned to his palace and familiarized himself with it. He lay on the bed and began to cultivate the peerless martial arts. Perhaps it was because the body of the peerless martial arts was damaged. Ning Shu felt that cultivating the peerless martial arts was not as smooth as before. It was also not as fast as before. The spiritual energy in ancient times could barely form qi, but the qi formed was not as strong as before. The destruction of the peerless martial arts had a bigger impact than she had imagined. Not only was the construction of the world delayed indefinitely, even the cultivation itself had problems. She had to use more of her soul to repair the world. That night, the harem was not peaceful at all. Many people had a lot on their minds. Gu Yi was happy and worried. She was happy that Ping Fangyi had finally fallen out of favor. She could now deal with Ping Fangyi. She was worried because she had done the mission for the system, but she did not expect the system to be absorbed by someone else. She felt that she had let down her own system. Ever since she became a mission enforcer, it had always been the system that reminded her. He was both a teacher and a friend, and the two of them were bound together. They had to support each other and continue to walk together. This was indeed a beautiful relationship. Gu Yi had a good impression of this invisible system, mainly because it was very stable with him around. Ping Fangyi repeatedly confirmed that the system had really left her. She could not help but cover her head with the blanket and cry. She did not want to stay in the palace. The flowers in the lonely palace were blooming. Her youth was about to wither in this harem. Pingfangi was absolutely unwilling. How many people had been buried in this harem? How many skeletons were there in this harem? It was originally a trip that could be left as soon as one said to leave. She could leave once she obtained the emperor's heart. But now, she had to stay here for a long time. Pingfangi was so scared that her whole body was trembling. She was afraid of the harem in the imperial palace. Because she had seen many of them, she knew that she was even more afraid of the demons and monsters in this harem. She was relying on the fact that she would not stay here forever. Once she obtained the emperor's heart, she would leave and die. She would become the eternal white moonlight and cinnabar mole in the emperor's heart. Death would make the emperor's heart pure. It would also make the emperor remember her in his heart forever. If the emperor wanted her, even if he had a good impression of her, it would be fine. But after the system left, the emperor's good impression of her had stopped at 0. There was no good feeling or love at all. There was not even a little bit of like. How could she survive in this harem? There was also the Empress Dowager. Previously, the emperor doted on her so much that sand had already entered the Empress Dowager's eyes. Pingfangi's eyes were red as she analyzed her situation. She discovered that her situation was not ordinary. Without the system, she might not even know if she was poisoned to death. There was also a group of concubines. Previously, the emperor's doting caused her to attract a large wave of hatred. Now, each and every one of them wanted to step on her. If it was said that Pingfangi was in a state of contempt for the concubines in the harem and did not care about them. She was in a state where she would ascend and leave at any time. But now, she could not be willful. Now that she thought about it, her situation. Chapter 23:31. These lonely women in the palace would do anything for the emperor. Torturing others, torturing themselves, torturing their children. They would use whatever they could. Pingfangi cried as she wrapped herself in the quilt and shivered. She was extremely worried about her future. Being thrown in this kind of dynasty, she might become a member buried in the harem. Now, it seemed like she could only place her hopes on the emperor. She hoped that he would dote on her like before. But if he did, the Empress Dowager would kill her. She should cultivate her body and mind when she was old. Don't think about killing people when you have nothing to do. The darkness ahead made Pingfangi unable to take a step forward. She was so scared that she lost the courage to face everything. It made Pingfangi want to end her life first, but she was unwilling. In the harem, there were many servants. But she had to fight and continue fighting. Moreover, Pingfangi did not know if she could return to her previous life after she died and start a peaceful life. In the past, she did not feel anything when she wandered around the world. With the system, she could see all kinds of male gods. She did not feel that there was anything wrong with her life. But now, Pingfangi only wanted to be an ordinary person and live peacefully. Ever since he subdued the system, Ningxu rarely went to the harem. The only person he cared about in the harem was Pingfangi. Now that everything was settled, he did not need to care about Pingfangi. Pingfangi treated the harem as child's play. But the harem taught her the cruel truth. He did not dote on Pingfangi anymore. He also did not reward Pingfangi with anything. He also did not call Pingfangi in front of him. Therefore, it was unrealistic to hope for the emperor's true feelings. After all, he only needed to hook his finger and there would be many women. They would not cherish things that were easily obtained. During this period, there were only a few words about the flood in Pengzhou. Moreover, they were all vague. They did not know the specific situation in Pengzhou. Ningxu was furious in the imperial court and asked how Pengzhou was. Old General Shen only asked Ningxu to wait. Maybe the news was too late and the emperor was waiting. What was there to wait for? Ningxu saw that after old General Shen spoke, the court became quiet. The ministers lowered their heads and did not speak. Occasionally, they would even mention something unrelated. It didn't matter that the Empress Dowager controlled the state affairs, but she only grasped the power and did not fulfill the duties of the power. Every time she did something, the Empress Dowager would lecture her. Even if she was his biological mother, She was too impatient. What a scam! The Empress Dowager's attitude was very vague. He could not figure out what she wanted to do. She wanted the Shun family to rebel, but she did not seem to have this intention. But now that the master was weak and the servants were strong, it would be strange if there were no problems. Ning Shu did not shy away from cursing in the Xuanda Hall after the morning court session. He cursed as he read the memorials. It was to reach the ears of the Empress Dowager. She did not know whether the Empress Dowager wanted to protect the imperial power or the Shun family. The Empress Dowager and the Empress Dowager were the same. They mediated in the middle but could not solve the problem substantively. Once the emperor got angry, it seemed that he did not like anything. He did not go to the harem. This made Ping Fangyi suffer. The first to change their attitude were the servants in Ping Fangyi's harem. When the master was favored, the servants would have a future. Now that Ping Fangyi had clearly fallen from favor, these servants became lazy. They procrastinated when doing things. Some of the servants had already looked for other branches. Ping Fangyi saw this and was very angry. She did not know how many things she rewarded these servants before, but now these people left without any reluctance. Her personal palace maid comforted Ping Fangyi, saying that the emperor was now worried about the flood in Pengzhou and had no time to go to the harem. When the emperor was free, according to his previous attitude of doting on her master, he would definitely come back to see her. Ping Fangyi's heart was full of thoughts. She was waiting for a man's pity. All the honor and disgrace were tied to a man. This made Ping Fangyi feel very pitiful, but she had to look forward to it. Otherwise, the days in the harem would be too difficult. Especially when someone deliberately made things difficult for her. The charcoal fire was getting less and less, and the food was getting simpler. It was clearly winter, but there was a flood in Pengzhou. Then the dam burst. Not only did people starve to death, they also froze to death. There were corpses everywhere. If these corpses were not handled properly, an epidemic would occur. There were people among the people who said that the current emperor was incompetent. It was the emperor's fault, so the heavens punished him. When Ning Shu heard this rumor, he glanced at the Qin family. Using this kind of method to attack an emperor who desperately wanted to be in power. Perhaps there was a bit of kinship in this. The Qin family had no choice but to do this. Even if the Qin family did not do it, the officials and interest groups behind the Qin family had to push the Qin family to do it. They probably wanted to use this kind of method to warn the emperor. Was it not good to be an emperor peacefully? If they caused trouble, they would not even be able to be a puppet emperor. After Ning Shu left court, he smashed everything in the room that could be smashed. The Empress Dowager probably understood this in her heart and did not appear in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu closed the door and smashed things expressionlessly. After smashing, he immediately reduced the expenses of the harem. He said that the victims of the disaster in Pengzhou were in an abyss of suffering. Everyone had to be more frugal and donate as much as they could. Ning Shu took the lead and had the Empress Dowager and Empress donate money. Following the example of their superiors, the concubines in the harem more or less took out some things, hoping to show their faces in front of the emperor. Ping Fangyi took out all the things that Ning Shu had rewarded her before. Then she looked at Ning Shu with a pair of eyes full of affection. Ning Shu looked away and met a pair of eyes that said, I understand everything. Lu Jiaoyi, who was grounded, came out to cause trouble again. Beauty Liang symbolically donated some silver and jewelry. After that, Ning Shu sent a large number of doctors to Pengzhou, as well as all kinds of medicinal herbs and cotton-padded clothes. In this world, he did not know if the power of law could be used. Since it was a flood, then if the law of water could be used, it would be fine to evaporate the water. Ning Shu wanted to make the water flow backwards, but it was too shocking. Moreover, whether it could be used or not was a problem. He tried it. The power of law could be used, but the restrictions were too great. Ning Shu evaporated a vat of water. However, Pengzhou was too far away from here. He did not know if the power of law could reach there and not be blocked by the Tao of Heaven. Ning Shu closed his eyes and felt the water flow, lakes, and rivers in the direction of Pengzhou. Finally, he felt the water gushing out of Pengzhou. He first lowered the surging water and then began to evaporate the water. Once the water started to evaporate, a shoddy construction would appear. It would be best to investigate who built the dam. With the power of law, the water would slowly evaporate. Ning Shu stretched his neck and waited for news from Su Chang'an. He had been gone for so long, but there was not a single word. Could it be that Su Chang'an had been assassinated? He said that it did not matter if he sided with the Shen family when necessary. Chapter 23:32. Ning Shu didn't want unyielding officials who wouldn't wallow in the mire. What he needed now were officials who were smart and could get things done. If possible, Ning Shu wanted to sneak into the Shen family. It was time for the Empress Dowager to be sick for a while and enjoy her old age. Ning Shu lost his temper every day because of the flood in Pengzhou. Su Chang'an's letter finally reached Ning Shu's hands. It was Ning Shu herself who went out of the palace to get it from the beggar clan. The letter was very thick. There was also a book full of deals made by the officials. Ning Shu was indifferent to all kinds of benefits. When he returned to the palace, Ning Shu went to the Empress Dowager's palace and gave the things to her. I can be a puppet emperor. If you want to control the court, I will pretend I don't have the ability. But your Shen family is a domestic rat. You dig up the world's people to enrich yourself. The officials who do this business and the income from these officials do their best to rob the people. The world only knows about the Shen family and not the emperor. Ning Shu looked coldly at the Empress Dowager. If you manage the country well, I have nothing to say. But you tell me to be a good emperor every day. Why don't you take care of your own family? Your Majesty, someone is framing you. Who is it? Remove them from their post and investigate. This kind of evidence can be made up by anyone. The Shen family is loyal to you, the Empress Dowager said with a frown. Ning Shu, I'd be stupid to tell you. Mother, give me the Jingdo Imperial Guard's commander's seal and I will let the Shen family go, Ning Shu said. Your Majesty. I don't want to hear nonsense. You know what your Shen family is like. Don't quibble. Ning Shu said, isn't it good for you to enjoy your old age? Your Majesty, you should understand why I don't give you the commander's seal. The Empress Dowager's face was bitter. I understand. Once I have power, I will fight with the Shen family. Thank you for thinking of me. Ning Shu said, Mother, you are sick. Stay in the palace for a while. I hope you can live a long life. Let me be filial to you. Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager didn't take the commander's seal. Ning Shu paid no attention to the Empress Dowager. He went to the Empress Dowager's bed, lifted the cup, and uncovered a wooden plank of the bed, revealing a box. Inside the box was the commander's seal. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see that there was a box in the bed. Under the Empress Dowager's horrified eyes, Ning Shu took the commander's seal and scanned it with his spiritual force. He knew every corner of the room. Your Majesty, you have been waiting for this day for a long time. That day will definitely come. Your Majesty, you said you would let the Shen family go. Empress Dowager Ning Shu said. Don't worry, but I still need Imperial Mother to say something in court. Ning Shu put away the letter book and left the Empress Dowager's palace. Along the way, he met the Empress. The Empress bowed to Ning Shu. Ning Shu did not say anything and walked around the Empress. The Empress's heart trembled. She felt that something had happened and hurried to the Empress Dowager's palace. However, she was stopped and told that the Empress Dowager was sick. The Empress obviously felt that something was wrong and quickly informed the Shen family. Ning Shu also informed the Shen family that the Empress Dowager was sick and they should go to the palace to see the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager was the standard figure of the Shen family. Now that she was sick, the Shen family naturally had to go to the palace to see her. The Empress always felt that something was wrong. What was that scum's conspiracy? Old General Shen and General Shen both entered the palace to see the sick Empress Dowager. Old General Shen and General Shen were now the pillars of the Shen family. They had to unload their weapons when they entered the palace. If something happened to them in the palace, it would be bad. Old General Shen felt that he was old, so he took the lead. If he died, there would be young people behind him who could support the Shen family. The The Shin family did not know that the emperor was afraid of them, but some things could not be done easily. If they handed over the military power, some things would be revealed. The Shin family would be unarmed and waiting to be executed. What's more, if you want to condemn someone, you will always have a pretext. It was hard to stop halfway. Old General Shin walked into the hall and heard the coughing sound of the Empress Dowager. He cupped his fist and saluted to ask how she was. The Empress Dowager's coughing could not be suppressed. After saying a few words, she started coughing. She could not even speak coherently. Old General Shin was very worried. He was very worried about his daughter. After that, the other members of the Shin family came to see the Empress Dowager. There was no situation of imprisoning her in the palace. They did not imprison anyone in the Shin family. They even stayed for dinner. When they thought the emperor would make things difficult, Ning Shu had them go back. During the morning court, Ning Shu said worriedly, "I feel that the heavens might really blame us. Pengzhou had a flood, and now mother is sick. This is a warning from the heavens. Therefore, I have decided to offer a sacrifice to the heavens and write an obituary to apologize to the heavens." Therefore, Ning Shu had the Ministry of Rites prepare the various matters of the sacrifice. General Shen's uncle cupped his hand to Ning Shu and said, "Then I will be responsible for the order of the sacrifice and let it end smoothly." "Then I will have to trouble you, uncle. Since it was a sacrifice to the heavens, then the emperor and empress had to offer the sacrifice together." Ning Shu went to the Empress Dowager's palace and told her to make preparations. Otherwise, if anything went wrong during the sacrifice, the heavens would blame them. The empress knew that the emperor's reputation among the people was very bad. Many people believed the rumors and blamed him for the flood and the deaths of the victims in Pengzhou. Using this method to clear his name, the empress felt that it would be better if something went wrong during the sacrifice. It would solidify the reputation of an incapable ruler who was condemned by the heavens. The Ministry of Rites quickly prepared the matters of the sacrifice and chose the best day for the sacrifice. On the day of the sacrifice, the air was clear and bright, but it was a bit cold. Ning Shu wore a dragon robe and a crown on his head. It was very grand. The empress wore the empress's palace attire. She was very graceful and luxurious. She walked with Ning Shu up the steps to the altar. The empress bit her lip. She wanted to roll down the steps and cause something to happen during the sacrifice. The empress's foot slipped and she was about to fall. Ning Shu grabbed her arm and held her steadily. The empress's expression was a little painful. Ning Shu grabbed her arm as if he was going to break it. It was impossible for her to roll down the steps. The empress turned to look at the cold side profile of the man beside her. This man's heart was as hard as iron. He only had power in his heart. "Dog Emperor, hand over your life. You don't have the right to be the emperor. You might as well abdicate." A guard with a special voice jumped out and stabbed Ning Shu with his sword. This cry gave everyone present a fright, and they hurriedly shouted for protection. Ning Shu shook off the empress's arm. The empress fell to the ground and dodged the assassin's attack. In a flash, Ning Shu was held down by the guard with a knife at his neck. "Warrior, what grudge do I have with you?" Ning Shu asked angrily. "You incapable ruler. What right do you have to be the emperor? You should quickly abdicate and give it to General Shen." General Shen was speechless. Where did this idiot come from? His acting skills were too clumsy. General Shen instantly knew that the Shen family had been framed. Chapter 23:33. He just needed to train his acting skills a bit. Other than having a loud voice, there was nothing else. Where did this assassin come from? Don't try to sow discord between the emperor and this official. Not only are we emperor and official, we are also blood-related relatives. General Qin immediately retorted. Ning Shu repeatedly said, "Yes, Zhen believes in uncle." "General Qin, you saved my family. I have no way to repay you. I can only kill this incapable ruler and clear the obstacles for Qin family." The guard excitedly said. Standing on the high steps of the altar, his voice spread from all directions. Ning Shu felt that his eardrums were about to be pierced. "Fuck, clear the obstacles." General Chen felt that something was wrong. He couldn't let this guard who came out of nowhere speak nonsense. The surrounding officials were discussing spiritedly. General Chen subconsciously shouted, "Release the arrows." "General, the emperor is still up there, and there is also the empress." An official reminded. The emperor was the leader of his subjects. If he really wanted to kill the emperor, his heart still didn't dare. General Chen was riding a tiger and it was hard to get off. That loud guard was still howling at the top of his lungs, saying something about longevity. He really put Chen family on the fire to roast. Ning Shu's face was first stupefied, then shocked, then in disbelief. Finally, with a sad face, he called out to General Chen, "Uncle." Ning Shu's acting skills were definitely several levels higher than the guard who was howling behind him. He looked like he had been betrayed and wronged. The empress who was pushed to the ground by Ning Shu pulled out a dagger from her sleeve and suddenly stabbed towards the assassin's back. The guard groaned and held onto Ning Shu even more tightly. His arms circled around Ning Shu's neck. The sword was close to his skin and blood flowed out. The guard's blade was a bit trembling. Ning Shu felt a bit of pain in his neck. "You piece of trash. Ben Gong told you to kill this incapable ruler, but I never told you to frame the Chen family. The Chen family has been loyal to the Murong family for generations." The empress held the dagger that was dripping with blood. The hatred that she had been suppressing exploded. There was a strong, gloomy aura around her body. She didn't look like a graceful and luxurious empress. Instead, she looked like a resentful woman, a female ghost filled with resentment. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. "Why do you want to hurt me? Could it be that you don't know, Your Majesty? This concubine hates you for being heartless and heartless. This concubine hates you for being an incapable ruler who forgets favors and violates justice. This concubine wants to kill you to relieve the hatred in my heart." The empress chuckled. "It was I who sent this guard to kill you, you heartless person. Why do you favor the concubines in your harem but never come to see me? I was your wife when we were young. Why are you so cruel and heartless? I'm going to kill you." The empress seemed to have gone mad. General Chen hurriedly knelt down and shouted, "Emperor, please punish me. It is this official's fault that the Chen family raised such a rebellious daughter." The empress took the dagger and stabbed it into her own neck. Her eyes were lifeless as she stared at Ning Shu. "I hate you. I want to turn into a ghost so that you will never have peace." General Chen couldn't help but close his eyes. He couldn't bear to watch anymore. He knew that his daughter sacrificed herself to protect the Chen family. This matter changed from a rebellion to a jealous wife who wanted to kill her husband. The nature was different. The empress was ready to die. The dagger was about to pierce into her neck when an arrow shot over. The dagger in the empress's hand fell to the ground. Of course, the empress's hand was also injured. It was bleeding profusely. Everyone reflexively looked at the person who shot the arrow. The commander of the Imperial Guards was sitting on the back of a horse with a bow in his hand. He turned over and got off the horse. The Imperial Guards behind him surrounded the entire altar. "General, the Empress Dowager sent this official to see what's wrong with the sacrifice." The commander of the Imperial Guards walked in front of General Chen and cupped his hands. Zhen was kidnapped. Ning Shu tried to make his presence known. At this time, shouldn't he take a look at this emperor? The guard who kidnapped Ning Shu behind him seemed to be possessed by a drama queen. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "General, this is the only thing this official can do for you. Kill this incapable ruler. This official will repay the general with his life." General Chen really wanted to shout, "Who the hell are you?" The commander of the Imperial Guards touched the sword at his waist and said to General Chen, "General, the only thing we can do now is to kill that assassin." General Chen knew that the Imperial Guards were his Empress Dowager's sister's people. He shook his head and said, "We can't. Right now, the emperor is still being held hostage by him. If the emperor was really killed, then wouldn't the Shen family's plan to usurp the throne be confirmed?" General Chen's eyes were unfathomable. He looked at Ning Shu's face and ordered, "Follow me to kill the assassin. Don't hurt the emperor." "General, don't worry. This official will kill this dog emperor for you." Kill this incapable ruler who brought calamity to the people of the world. The guard held Ning Shu's neck with one hand and held the sword with the other to fight with the guards who were rushing over. Brothers, follow this general to protect the emperor. The Shen family wants to rebel. The empress wants to murder the emperor. General Chen wants to murder the emperor. The commander of the imperial guards suddenly shouted. In addition, the imperial guards that came before had already surrounded the altar. Even the civil and military officials inside were blocked. In the chaos, many officials were injured. If it wasn't their legs, then it was their faces. The more serious ones died on the spot. General Chen was stunned. He shouted at the commander of the imperial guards, "General Li Yuwei, what do you mean? Saving the emperor is more important. Audacious Shen family, you want to usurp the throne." The commander of the imperial guards called out to the imperial guards. The two families started fighting. "Emperor, you are so ruthless." The empress, who was lying on the altar, used her injured hand to grab Ning Shu's ankle. She raised her head and looked at Ning Shu. "You planned all of this." He thought that he would be able to change things once again. Compared to his previous life when he framed the Shen family and searched for evidence of the Shen family's usurpation of the throne with great fanfare, the emperor in this life had once again devised this plan. It was just as sinister. Ning Shu didn't speak. He felt the blood soaking his ankle. Facing the empress's hateful eyes, he was indifferent. The empress's eyes dimmed. "What is your heart made of?" "Emperor, the Shen family was wronged." "The Shen family has never done anything wrong to you. Why do you want to frame the Shen family like this?" "How can I allow others to sleep beside my bed?" Ning Shu said. "You really don't care about kinship at all. Your Majesty, the Shen family is also your family. They are your maternal grandfather, your uncle." The empress pleaded with Ning Shu, "Your Majesty, Chen Xie is begging you." Ning Shu sighed. "I ate too much, that's why I put in so much effort. What do you think is the root of this matter?" The guard holding Ning Shu saw that General Chen had been caught. He let go of Ning Shu and ran while shouting, "General, this little one will avenge you." Then he disappeared. General Chen's hands were caught. He put them behind his back and knelt on the ground. He didn't struggle. He looked at Ning Shu on the high platform and said, "The child has grown up, but his methods are really despicable." Chapter 23:34. It didn't matter if the method was despicable or not. The important thing was that it was useful. The empress crawled on the ground, her hands covered in blood. She grabbed Ning Shu's ankle and raised her head to look at Ning Shu. She seemed to be shedding tears of blood as she spoke. "But Emperor, the Chen family has been handed over. How can the emperor let the Chen family go? The Chen family is only doing this to protect themselves. Just like Emperor, you only have power in your heart. You have a heart of stone. Isn't it for the supreme power? The Chen family is holding on to power to protect themselves." Ning Shu was a bit annoyed. "Of course Zhen is also doing this to protect myself. Zhen is just a puppet. Whenever Zhen is dissatisfied, Zhen will be kicked off the throne. You know that the Chen family won't," the empress said while crying blood. Ning Shu helped the empress up and faced her. "If not, Zhen wouldn't have to offer sacrifices to the heavens to confess. Because Zhen is an incompetent emperor, the heavens are blaming me. Do you understand the meaning of these words? If not for these rumors, she would have to offer sacrifices to the heavens and ask for forgiveness. She would say that she wasn't a qualified emperor. Then, the Empress Dowager was coincidentally sick. As a filial emperor, she had to pray for her mother. The empress cried, "Emperor, what do you want Chen Xie to do? One is my family, and you are Chen Xie's husband." Ning Shu, what could they do? One wanted to take back power, and the other didn't want to let go. So, it was normal for them to fight. General Chen was detained by the imperial guards. As for the sacrifice to the heavens, it was over. Not even a sentence of the obituary was read. Many officials were injured. As for how long they would need to recuperate, it was unknown. The coffin shops and doctors in the capital were the busiest. Ning Shu was very generous to these recuperating officials. He let the imperial doctors in the palace treat them. As for General Chen, Ning Shu placed him in the palace and didn't directly throw him into prison. The reason was that there were still many suspicious points in this matter. So, they had to investigate clearly and not wrongly accuse the Chen family. Those who didn't know would think that the Chen family was favored. General Chen was locked in the palace like an iron cage. Like the Empress, he couldn't take a step out. Moreover, the Empress's act of regicide was witnessed by many eyes. It was irrefutable evidence. Even if Ning Shu didn't say anything, those stubborn imperial censors who couldn't tolerate sand in their eyes would definitely report to impeach the Empress. Ning Shu's report was written is his injuries. Since they were injured, they had to recuperate. Someone's job and they would take their position and work. He gave them a large sum of money. Ning Shu suppressed the Qin family's matter. He didn't say what he would do, only that it was still being investigated. Even this matter, Ning Shu only said that it was matter between husband and wife. She would have taken care of it herself. The Empress Dowager dragged hers sickly body and coughed until her back was hunched. She walked in front of Ning Shu and started to cry. Ning Shu reached out and patted her back. The Empress Dowager's voice was a bit hoarse. Emperor Aijun. Muhu, don't worry. Ning Shu said, there are some words that you still need to say in front of the courts, civil and military officials. What do you want Aijia to say? The Empress Dowager coughed. Her lips were dry and pale. Ning Shu gently patted the Empress Dowager's back as he said, Muhi, you know. In the end, it's the Qin family. Zhen can't bear to touch them. The Empress Dowager's back was slightly hunched. Aijia knew, 'tis would'ves. Something like this must happen. It would be abnormal if it didn't. Any emperor with a bit of courage would want to not be controlled by others. Of course, it didn't exclude those emperors who only wanted to play around and enjoy life. As long as there was wine, food, and women, everything would be fine. The next day, the Empress Dowager went to court with him. The Empress Dowager said, now that the emperor has grown up, he has a clear mind. In the future, the matters of the court will be discussed with the emperor. There is no need to find Aijia. The matters of the court will all be decided by the emperor. The Empress Dowager spoke for a long time and was a bit tired. She stopped and coughed twice. Under Ning Shu's gaze, she said, when the time comes, the Qin family will also hand over their military power. There was an uproar in the court. Old General Qin, who was standing at the front, swayed a bit. He seemed to have aged a lot. He was like an old man with one foot in the grave. Ning Shu immediately said, Grandfather has worked hard to guard the border and made great contributions. Zhen bestows upon him a gold medallion. Thank you, Your Majesty. But I don't have the medallion with me. Old General Qin thought of his son who was imprisoned in the palace. Now that the Empress Dowager had spoken, there was no turning back. Yesterday, there was a sacrifice to heaven. Today, something like this happened in the court. What the Empress Dowager did was not within old General Chen's expectations. Ning Shu smiled and said, it's okay. Let Xiaolu go to the general's manor to get it. Oh right, General Li Yue will also go with him. General Yue was the commander of the Imperial Guards. He would definitely bring his soldiers to the general's manor. Grandfather, where did you put the medallion? Tell Xiaolu so that he won't have to search everywhere in the general's manor. It will be a waste of time and he will break things. Old General Chen said, I don't remember clearly at the moment. I am old and my memory is not very good. I only remember that it was placed in a very safe place. Ning Shu smiled slightly and was not angry at all. Grandfather, take your time to think about it. All right, you said that you would be rewarded for your hard work. Come, bring the gold medallion. A young eunuch carried a tray. On the tray was a golden medallion with the words, death-free, written on it. Old General Qin took the gold medallion and glanced at the Empress Dowager. He knelt down to thank her. He looked like he was thinking hard. Finally, he said the location of the tiger medallion. Xiaolu and the commander of the Imperial Guards hurried to find it. Old General Chen looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled at him. All the courtiers were waiting for Xiaolu and the commander of the Imperial Guards to come back. They knew that the emperor was going to take power now. Some of the officials could not sit still. They wiped the cold sweat on their foreheads with their sleeves from time to time. The atmosphere in the hall was solemn and stagnant. Everyone subconsciously held their breaths. Ning Shu coughed. Many of the officials were frightened by the sudden sound and trembled. What else is there to report? Ning Shu stroked his long sleeves and said casually. But none of the officials stepped forward. Ning Shu said lightly, "The world is so big. Is there nothing else?" Who was in the mood to talk about trivial things now? Now that the Shen family had fallen, they could not even protect themselves. How could they talk about the world's affairs? Chapter 23:35. The quiet hall was mixed with the Empress Dowager's suppressed coughs. Ning Shu said to the Empress Dowager, "If Muhu isn't feeling well, go back and rest. I will have the imperial physician take a look at Muhu. Muhu, you must take care of your body." The Empress Dowager covered her mouth with a handkerchief and nodded. Just as she was about to leave, the officials immediately bowed. "Farewell, Empress Dowager." Ning Shu watched the Empress Dowager leave and then said to everyone, "It's quite boring. If you have something to say, say it." An official from the Ministry of Revenue stood up and said that because of the disaster relief, the national treasury was empty. "Tell me what you can do." "I can conjure silver. I can only think of ways to increase revenue and reduce expenditure," Ning Shu said. "Who knows how the disaster relief situation in Pengzhou is right now? Reporting to the emperor, there is no news." Ning Shu muttered, "How does this Su Chenggan do things? He didn't even send back a single piece of news and then sent people to Pengzhou." Although the officials continued to report some matters, the atmosphere was particularly solemn. Old General Chen stood at the front and didn't say a word. Everyone felt that each day was like a year. Finally, Xiaolu returned. Ning Shu placed his hand on the dragon throne and stroked it. Xiaolu presented the commander's seal to Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled slightly and accepted the commander's seal. He said to Old General Chen as gently as a spring breeze, "Grandfather, stay in the palace for lunch. Muhu's body isn't well. Spend more time with her." This old official obeys. Old General Chen raised his hands and didn't say anything else. The imperial guards were in his hands. The Chen family's military power was also in his hands. Most of the officials in court were new faces. Ning Shu was very happy. He had the Chen family stay for lunch, including the grounded empress and his uncle or father-in-law. The Empress Dowager also attended, but because she wasn't feeling well, she left early. The atmosphere at the table was clearly very strange and still, but Ning Shu acted as if nothing had happened. He raised his wine cup and urged everyone to drink. Everyone had a serious expression. Only Ning Shu had a smile on his face. The Qin family's veins bulged. They knew he was happy, but he shouldn't be grinning like that. But when the emperor urged them to drink, they had to drink. The empress sat beside Ning Shu with her head lowered. She did not say a word and occasionally picked up some food to eat. In the end, old General Shen was someone who had seen great storms and waves. He instructed Ning Shu with a few words. It was nothing more than wanting Ning Shu to become a good emperor that was revered by tens of thousands. Ning Shu laughed and said that he wouldn't let his grandfather down. After the banquet was over, Ning Shu let General Shen go and didn't imprison him. Now that the military power in the Shen family's hands was gone, although they were granted a death exemption medal, if the Shen family's matters were to be exposed, several medals would not be enough. The Empress took this opportunity to find the Empress Dowager. As soon as she walked into the Empress Dowager's palace, she smelled a strong smell of medicine. The Empress lifted the bead curtain and saw the Empress Dowager lying on the couch. After bowing, she asked how her mother was doing. The Empress Dowager said in a hoarse and melancholy voice, "Illness comes like a falling mountain and goes like spinning silk." "Aunt, you're silly. How can you give the control of the imperial guards to the emperor?" The Empress couldn't help but say angrily. She was reborn, so she had to take precautions. She even asked her father to strengthen the guards in the mansion. She didn't want anyone to enter the house and had to carefully check every corner of the mansion. This was to prevent the emperor from using underhanded methods again. Before Ning Shu left the palace and went to the general's mansion, so he was directly chased away. The sacrificial ceremony was planned in advance. It needed the imperial guards. The imperial guards had always been the imperial guards and were in the hands of the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager didn't ask anyone and just gave it to the emperor. The empress was now carrying the crime of killing her husband out of jealousy and killing the emperor. In order to save the Shun family, she could only do this. She didn't know when the incapable emperor would investigate. If he investigated, it would be a disaster. Now the Shun family had no power to truss a chicken. The Empress Dowager seemed to have phlegm in her throat. Anyway, it was not refreshing. She looked at the empress. Then what do you want Aijia to do? The Shun family's heart is getting bigger and bigger. Aijia has the heart but is powerless. I can't control the Shun family. Auntie, do you know what the Shun family will face next? The empress was very anxious. She just wanted to change the fate of the Shun family. The emperor is Aijia's child. Do you think Aijia wants to see the two sides fight? But at least the Shun family has the power to protect themselves. But now the Shun family can only wait to be captured. The empress said weakly. So what if they gave her a death-free gold medallion? The death-free gold medallion couldn't be used every time. Although she took all the responsibility for the sacrificial ceremony, it would still implicate the Shun family. Also, she didn't know if the Shun family's previous matters would be exposed. There would always be people doing bad things in the name of the Shun family. These things would be blamed on the Shun family. If the emperor was more ruthless and put the blame on the Shun family would still repeat the same mistakes. The empress felt very powerless. The house was about to collapse. She was alone. Auntie, why don't you discuss it with me? If they want to kill, then kill. Anyway, the child was already 3 years old. Even if he was still young, at least the Shun family could survive. Since her rebirth, there were people dragging her down everywhere. The emperor was still treacherous. The empress was worried about her son and wanted to protect the Shun family. She was in a dilemma. She only wanted to protect the Shun family. If the emperor died, the Shun family would be saved. Ning Shu sent 5,000 troops to Pengzhou. First, it was to maintain the stability of Pengzhou and send some supplies over. Second, it was to kill the generals who relied on the Shun family. As for the crimes, they were ironclad. They embezzled military funds and seized land. They would be executed immediately and then take over the troops. Even if the Shun family was innocent and didn't seem to have done anything illegal, these people who relied on the Shun family could drag the Shun family to death. When there were more teammates, there would be more useless teammates. Ning Shu didn't feel sorry for the Empress Dowager who was in a dilemma. If he really wanted to protect the Shun family, he wouldn't have given them so much power. The Shun family also wouldn't have become arrogant. Once people became arrogant, they wouldn't be far from destruction. The Empress Dowager put her maternal family in important positions and pushed the Shun family to the peak of power. When Ning Shu was the Empress Dowager regent, he didn't choose her maternal family when selecting assistant ministers. He didn't dare to put her maternal family in important positions. This was a weakness that the civil and military officials could use against him. The most taboo thing in the royal family was for relatives to monopolize power. If the Shun family didn't have such great power, this wouldn't have happened. Now, when Ning Shu went to court, the imperial censor would impeach officials. Most of them were officials who relied on the Shun family. If it wasn't serious, Ning Shu would punish them. If it was serious, he would kill them directly. Corrupt officials were killed directly. This could change the atmosphere of the imperial court in a short time. Of course, after killing people, he had to appease the frightened officials. He had to say that even if he tightened his belt, he wouldn't let his beloved officials who worked hard for the country and the people suffer. The indifferent faces of the civil and military officials were speechless. Chapter 23:36. Other people would have all the civil and military officials fall in love with them, But Ning Shu would have all the civil and military officials hate her. If it wasn't for the replacement officials, the entire imperial court would have been empty, and there would be echoes when they spoke. All the civil and military officials clamped their tails, whether it was a fox's tail, a dog's tail, or a proud cat's tail, all of them were tucked away. They all knew that the emperor was cleaning up the Shun family, but the Shun family didn't make a move. They didn't understand what the emperor was thinking. Some people tried to send memorials to impeach some things. If they investigated carefully, it would definitely be related to the Shun family, but Ning Shu put it aside. This way, the court officials understood and did what they needed to do, not mentioning the Shun family's matters. Because he had power, Ning Shu had to read many memorials every day. These memorials were no longer filtered memorials. Some of the previous memorials had been read by the Empress Dowager and were kept away. Some memorials wouldn't appear in front of her. The memorials now were several times more than before. And she was now an emperor who was diligent and loved the people. Because after the general guarding Pringzhou was killed, news of Pringzhou came back to the palace one after another. Su Chenggan wrote a booklet and explained the situation in Pringzhou in detail. The flood had stopped and everywhere had been swept by the flood. Now, there was no way to carry out agricultural production or planting. Furthermore, under the impact of the flood, the houses had been reduced to pieces of wood. There wasn't even a place to live. Ning Shu told Su Chenggan not to come back first, and to take precautions against the epidemic. Corpses that had been soaked in water were easy to develop an epidemic. The corpses had to be buried and disinfected. The spread of an epidemic was comparable to fire and water. The people sent over now were all his own people, so Su Chenggan should be able to do whatever he wanted. The problem was that the national treasury was empty, and there was a flood. Ning Shu had to think of ways to deduct money. He always felt that he was a poor person no matter where he was. It was really miserable. Ning Shu suspected that he would be poor for the rest of his life, and that he lived a miserable life every day. Your Majesty, the Empress sent someone over to invite Your Majesty to the Empress Palace for a meal. Xiaoluzi bowed and said. Ning Shu's attention was on the memorials, and he didn't look up. When? Dinner. Ning Shu nodded. She didn't know why the Empress was looking for her. Ever since she came to this world, she had only met the Empress a few times, let alone share the same bed. The Empress seemed to have completely given up on her client. She did not fight for favor, nor did she seek favor. He ignored the Emperor. Ning Shu put down the cinnabar brush. Seeing that it was getting late, he headed for the Empress' sleeping quarters. The Empress's palace was very quiet. Other than the bright lights in the room, there was no sound at all. Everyone suspected that there was no one in the palace. Ning Shu walked in and felt the warmth of the charcoal fire on his face. The Empress was dressed very simply. Her hair was combed into a bun, and there was no hairpin on it. There were no earrings on her ears, and there was no face covering. Other than her clothes, there was nothing else on her body. Your Majesty! The Empress bowed. Ning Shu got up and sat down. The dishes on the gold-rimmed Nanmu table were sumptuous. The Empress poured a cup of wine for Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised the cup. Qinxie congratulates Your Majesty for achieving your wish. A wish? Ning Shu looked at the clear wine in the cup. It should be good wine, as it gave off a rich aroma. The Empress tilted her head and seemed to be puzzled. Isn't Your Majesty's wish to be in power? For power, you can do anything. Ning Shu's finger gently stroked the wine cup. Zhen can do anything for power. If you say power is not a good thing, then why does the Qin family not let go of power? The Qin family has always been protecting themselves, the Empress said. Ning Shu looked at the Empress. You want to walk this path to the end? Zhen has never touched the Qin family. Maybe you are in the palace and don't know the Qin family's matters, but the Qin family has done many things, Ning Shu said. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. The Empress's face became cold. You clearly know the conflict between the imperial family and the Qin family, but you insist on tying this matter to affection. On the other hand, your Qin family is also very hateful. You have power in your hands and say you are family, but you watch Zhen become a puppet emperor and control Zhen. Your accusation of Zhen is the same as Zhen's accusation of you. This was actually a conflict of ideas. Men used career, power, and wealth as their life's goal, while women used love and family as their life's hope. If there was a conflict between the two, it would be like Ning Shu and the Empress. If the client sacrificed a woman's love, family, and everything else for the sake of power and career, the woman would hate him to death. Calling him a scumbag was already a light punishment. Zhen won't drink the wine. You want to die, but Zhen doesn't want to die with you. Ning Shu stood up. Mother. At the door, a child with a bun held the door and stumbled in. When he saw Ning Shu, he incoherently called out, "Father Emperor?" This child was only about 3 years old. It was the age when he was ignorant. When he saw Ning Shu, he tentatively called out, "Father, come here." The Empress's voice was trembling. Her expression was very frightened. Today, she was going to die with this scum. When she saw her son, she almost cried. The child grabbed onto Ning Shu's clothes and shouted while drooling, "Father!" Ning Shu squatted down. The Empress held the child in horror. The child in her arms was ignorant. Ning Shu stood up. "If there is nothing, don't play with poison. Where did the imperial palace get the poison? Did the Qin family give it to you to kill the emperor? It has nothing to do with the Qin family. It's me who wants to kill you. Wah wah wah." The child didn't know what was going on, but instinctively he cried. Ning Shu stood up. "If there is nothing, don't show an expression in front of the child that your family is not good. If Zhen was a child, Zhen wouldn't be happy to see your face." The Empress sneered. Her heart was sad. Then what was the meaning of her rebirth? There was no way to change the fate of the Qin family. Now that this scum didn't touch the Qin family, he must have some malicious thoughts. Ning Shu glanced at the wine and dishes on the table. "Put these things away. There are children in the palace. If the children eat, you are lifting a stone to hit your own foot." The Empress held the child tightly, killing her and supporting this child to ascend the throne. In fact, the situation would not change. If this child was not raised to be a cripple, in the future, he would definitely seize power from the Qin family. Moreover, the Qin family had 2 regents and Empress Dowager. They didn't know how much power they had. In the end, if the Qin family didn't replace them, then the emperor could only be a puppet. The Empress was reborn to protect the Qin family. When the time came, she would touch the Qin family. Would it be to make the Qin family hand over the military power for her son, or to let her son be a puppet emperor? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.